All right, we're just kicking off tonight's live, the second live tonight. We had a good discussion before about flag burning, and today we're going to talk about the next developments in the Epstein list. I want to hear from a lot of people today. This live is different. If you pay attention to my opening comments, if you're new to TK Civics, this account and my effort is all about eliminating corruption from government. And that means getting rid of the big money from special interest groups, corporations, and billionaires. And that does tie into this subject. So that's why we're discussing it. But unlike a lot of other topics where I have lots of strong opinions and observations and assessments based on civics, this one is more of an opportunity for me to learn from people on the right, MAGA, people on the left, about what's going to happen ultimately with this list and how it affects politics in the future. So I think it is an important topic. I used to think it wasn't that important of a topic because I just didn't think it moved the needle very much for a lot of people. And now some MAGA people, a lot of MAGA people and right people have made me think differently about this topic, that it is actually much more important than I gave it credit for just about a month or two ago. So that's my thoughts on that. Let's see. I get this thing blaring at me. So as we get more and more people joining, it takes a few minutes for TikTok to kick out the live to a lot of people. So I hope you don't swipe by. I hope you'll stay, and I hope you'll join me as a guest. If you're interested in this, you can listen to a lot of guest comments, or you can share your thoughts on this situation, because it's been, I wouldn't say quiet. There's been some activity about potentially Trump pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell, and I'd like to know what people think about that. And of course, there's talk about the Speaker of the House delaying the swearing in of the new lawmaker from the Democrat that's going to cast the deciding vote on this list. So there is obviously some activity, and I want to know what people think about possibly Trump pardoning Maxwell, and what does that mean? Like, does that buy her silence? Does then she have any reason to continue to be silenced? How does it affect, a certain country? So we got to be a little bit delicate about the situation in the words that we use today, because the other day I did get blocked or restricted or canned off of this live. That was a little bit more controversial, and today is not meant to be controversial at all. It's just meant to be an education piece. Talk about the things in the news about the Epstein list and what's going to happen next and how MAGA is going to. And thanks for the likes, and that helps a lot for the live to get exposed more. So if you have any badges or likes or whatever contributions, that's awesome and appreciated, because again, like I said, if you're new to this channel, it's all about eliminating corruption from politics, meaning the big special interest money, billionaires and corporations and lobbyists. Like, that's ultimately what I want to do, or be a conduit to help do, because most people believe that we have to keep fighting this blue versus red thing. And I don't. As a fierce independent, I think we have to unite around a singular topic, and that's replacing all career politicians and banning all that special interest money. And I know people think it's impossible. It is not impossible. It is challenging, but it's also not complex. And it will take 50 to 70 million people. So if you're interested, please follow me here, watch my videos, and you'll find out if you watch the most popular videos that I put out here on TikTok and on YouTube. I'm streaming live on YouTube as well. And if you can subscribe over there as well, that helps a lot, because we don't know what's going to happen with this platform, if it's going to be a total right-wing propaganda network, which almost, I guess I should be careful even saying that. We've got to be careful. So we don't know what's going to happen. So anyway, hopefully TikTok allows freedom of speech to be broadcast by everyone. And this is not meant to be hate speech at all. My channel is not about hate speech. It's about civics, and it's about having cordial civic conversations with one another. So if anyone wants to jump into the box and get started, what is the first thoughts on what do you think is going to happen next with the Epstein list? Like, so we know that, they're talking about releasing it. They're promising to do it, but why aren't they doing it? Like, what's the plan? Like, they're going to hold out on letting this lawmaker to join Congress, swearing her in so that she can cast the deciding vote, and then they're forced to release the list. Like, what are they waiting for? Like, what's going to happen? They're just trying to buy time, and what are they trying to buy time for? And then what's going to happen with Trump? Is he going to pardon Maxwell ultimately? And what do you think about that? And specifically, what does MAGA feel about that? Is there going to be any accountability? And how does that affect, because this potentially ties back to a certain special interest, right? I know I've learned this, obviously, I didn't know this very myself until a couple months ago, that it really ties back to a special interest group and maybe a certain government. And that's all. I'll leave it sort of high level like that. And I want to know, where's the accountability and what really happens? Like, how, I don't really understand the strategy, because it doesn't seem to be going away. MAGA won't let it go away. Marjorie Taylor Greene is certainly not letting it go away. So Chuck Lack, Trump is not going to pardon her. I'd love to know why you think not. If you're interested in joining and verbalizing that and speaking to me, jump into the box and tell the group, or you can just put it into the comments, whatever's more comfortable for you. And then we have Bernard Cohen saying Trump is guilty. Now what? Exactly. That's what I wanted to know. What happens then? So, okay, so he's in the list, and so are so many other people. We all pretty much know that. So what does that mean then? Is that going to mean anything whatsoever? It's really curious to me what's going to happen. And I'd like to know, because I don't research this. I don't spend a lot of time digging in on the Epstein list. Like I said, this is more educational for me than anything else. Hey there.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing very well.
What generation are you? Generation X, Y, Z?
Well, I was born in 98, so I guess that would be
Millennial.
older
Y.
Z.
Older Z? Oh, yeah, 98. Yes, you would be older Z. That's right. Yep, right on the edge there. So what are your thoughts? Do you pay attention to the Epstein list saga much? And what are your thoughts?
Paying attention to it a few months ago just because everybody kept going in circles. Everybody kept saying, release a list. And then everybody else was saying, well, it is released. It's like, no, but release more. It's like, well, that's just about it. No, but the names are redacted. It's like, well, the names are being unredacted. No, just give us a full. It's like, it's the same thing over and over and over again.
What do you think the strategy is? Do you think it's just a delay and hopefully it goes away? I mean,
I think so, yeah. I think it's a delay. But then again, I don't really give a shit anymore. I stopped caring about it, you know?
What are you, right? Did you a Trump voter or a left voter?
Yeah, I voted for Trump. And if he's indicted, then fucking send him to jail. I really don't give a shit.
And
I'm more of a moderate, you could say. More of a moderate Republican, so.
Okay. So, but yeah. What are your thoughts? Do you think he's on the list? I mean, obviously, right?
I'm most certainly, yeah. I'm pretty sure he's on a list. Not sure what kind of list. Maybe a business list, birthday list, something like that. But
all right. I mean obviously, Gazelle and Epstein have to have a list, right? People say there's no list. Like Pam Bondi said, "There's no." Come on, give me a break. You got to have a list in your phone. You got to have a list because you're arranging this shit.
Right. Or the flight log list, right? There's always a list, but
right.
Even the survivors came out and said, "Hey, we never saw him do anything bad with minors at the island, if he was even there at all." So, I mean, I think that should just kind of bury that in the hatchet already.
Well, they're claiming right now, if I think right, Mike Johnson's claiming that they're trying to protect the victims and not have their names, and they're spending time. I don't even know.
Like, it's been at least 14 years. Like, it's been a while. Like they've been protecting them long enough. Come on.
Now, this list, again, I don't pay deep attention to this. I'm much more interested in corruption and civics. So is the list, has the list already been circulated on the internet for several years? Yes, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So what's your understanding of that? Like, if it's out there already, what, they just want an official government release?
From what I hear, it's like they were business contacts, professional contacts. And then they highlighted Trump's name on there and they said, see, this means nothing because they were just business contacts. That's all I really know about it.
Okay. They flagged his name at some point when the FBI was reviewing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which my understanding is they flagged the name because they wanted to redact it, right?
Right.
Okay. Interesting. All right, we're gonna have another guest jump in as well, Mr. Cole. But you're welcome to stay in.
Okay.
Cool. This is come and go as you need to. I'm trying to, like I said, normally I have a lot of strong opinions on these types of things. I viewed it, I didn't understand the depth of the potential conspiracy, if you want to call it that, right?
Mm,
I didn't know about it much because I just thought it was, pretty clean regarding, doing bad things with wrong people. But
mm,
now, obviously, MAGA has understood for a long time that this is a lot deeper, right?
yeah, absolutely.
But I just don't see any reason. Like, there's no, you can't release, even if there was footage of stuff, right? That
Mm,
group would never release that footage because then they lose their leverage. So the
exactly.
most powerful thing they have is to have those evidence and never release it,
Right,
right? So
right.
like, I, it's a game of chicken. It seems like in some ways.
Yeah.
J-
Who's gonna end up releasing it? We don't know. If
And
it's
Joe,
ever.
Hey, Mr. Global.
Joe, yeah, Joe Rogan, I think was it today that they dropped on his podcast, him and his guests were talking about this topic, and they kind of were spitting, spitballing back and forth about it. I don't know, my mind tends to want to think that there's something more nefarious at play, but it may be more of just a strategic play on that corporate interest that you speak of,
Yeah.
or
So,
that.
oh, so you even think that maybe if he wasn't on the list, but he's promised to release the list, but now he's getting pressured to not release the list.
I think I think it may have been a strategy, right, to make people look bad and to disenfranchise our leaders even further.
Well, we know there's going to be, like we talked about before, there's going to be a lot of people on the list that people just haven't really thought about that obviously need to protect their families and stuff.
Right.
Self-preservation, like you said a couple days ago.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's the name of the game. That's
Yeah.
human. That's human nature, right?
Yeah. All right. So let's take to Hi. I'm not even going to try. Hi, Bureau. I'm doing my best there. Hi, Bureau.
Eh,
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. It's just the name that TikTok generated for me. um, I don't feel like I have anything, groundbreaking or earth shattering to contribute to this. Um, I think the list isn't being released because both sides are on it from top to bottom. Um,
Right.
the
Including
left, the
business
right,
leader and the business leaders, which of course, have incredible influence in our government as well.
100%, and probably a vast majority of our politicians, honestly, and of course
Men.
with ties to a government that we don't want to talk about on this live. But you had mentioned that earlier when you first started
Yep.
your stream, and I think that those are all,
Well,
you know,
did Gates get divorced because of this? I think so, right? Was it one of the reasons?
I,
Allegedly,
I
allegedly.
I'm not
Okay.
okay. Yeah, I'm not educated enough on that particular topic to speak whether that was the reason for his divorce or not. But honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. Uh,
Yeah, if he's been down
to
to
be
the island
honest.
a lot, like who's going to tolerate that, right? At some point.
100%.
Right.
I do also think, and this might be a little bit of a controversial opinion, but I think a lot of the political theater that we're seeing right now is to distract us
Yeah.
from this issue. Uh, it seems like every time they start getting backed into a corner, there's more political theater, there's more craziness, there's more outlandish things happening to kind of, ring the bell over here and make us all look over
Well,
here.
many times I would agree with that, but you can see that clearly Trump has been getting so angry that this has existed as long as it has. So normally you'd think he'd almost embrace it unless you think it's an act.
Well, and he campaigned on releasing the list. And then just a few weeks ago, he was like, it's a hoax. And, there was a handful of survivors speaking. I want to say it was 10 or 11 of them. And, they were flying helicopters over them while they were trying to speak. It's not a good look for him. He's trying to distract us, but in my opinion, it makes him look even guiltier. I don't know if that's the word I want to use, but it's more suspicious in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, the part of it too that kind of, as that, with a man like him and his name and his stature, part of me thinks that he wouldn't participate in something like that. Like, would someone completely jeopardize everything that their father, grandfather, and they have created, their family? Would you jeopardize that? Does that not cross one's mind when they start to go down this path?
I think he would 100%.
You're thinking too much like a male that has integrity and values, Mr. Global.
100%.
Well,
I think
I
Trump 30 years ago definitely would have done what we think he might have done 30 years ago. I mean, just look at the whole Stormy Daniels scandal.
Yeah, the pageant, the
He was
Daniels, I mean everything constantly.
constantly. I just don't have enough faith in him to not be on the list. And again, he campaigned on this, and I don't know if he just kind of thought that while I'm running for president, I'm going one of my cornerstones is going to be releasing the list, and because I'm saying that, everybody's going to forget about it. And we didn't forget about it. We're like, let's release the list, and no one wants to release the list because I think they're all on it somehow.
he thought we were bluffing. He thought all the people were
Yeah,
bluffing on it, you know, and we're calling his bluff
definitely.
now. It's like, okay,
Yeah, no, he could have shot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue. No one cares. But on this issue, they care,
well,
right?
just don't gaslight us. Don't say you're going to do something and then not do it.
Oh, Mr. Global, I think you're being a little naive there because that's the playbook of Donald Trump, right?
Well, that's politicians in general since
Yes,
I've been alive.
yeah. I mean, of course, politicians have always done it for a long time as well. But there's maybe a new level of serial lying.
So
But
then where do
that
you go with it? Like, so what if he is? Then what?
that's what I always ask. Like, then what? I still don't get that part. Is like all of a sudden the house of cards is going to fall down. Like, who's going to vote? Or is MAGA then going to vote everybody out of office with the liberals? Are they going to combine liberals and MAGA, and all of a sudden it's going to be hunky dory and everybody lives happily ever after? Like, I just don't get it.
True. I mean, yeah, that is a possibility, right?
Whew, that would be nice. I don't get it either. A lot of people in the comments mentioning, same thing. By the way, you guys can jump in if anybody else wants to jump in on the discussion and you have something insightful or new that you might want to share. Again, I am here mostly for education, not to spew my point of view on this because I still don't quite understand a lot of things about it, even if you are obviously some of the comments know what we're talking about with a certain country and possibly that influence and how this all got started. I just don't know what the end game is. I didn't know what the end game was a few months ago. I still don't understand what MAGA's end game is here. If everybody's on the list, I know what I would like it to be. I would like it for everyone to freaking wake up and take their heads out of the sands and realize all these people in the corruption from the billionaires and corporations and the special interests, that they're all just leveraging us as our democracy. And if we could all just wake up and pay attention to that, like that would be my dream hope. Like everybody says, okay, F this. We have to take action against all these forces, all these special interests that are infiltrating our government. And then we can come together around that one thing that I always talk about is trying to do our best to eliminate corruption and bring representation back to the people. And that's why I'm talking about the Epstein list, because it does tie in, like it ties into those special interests. And that's why I like talking about this to some degree.
I think it furthers though your proposal for this third option is that I think it's going to get to the point where everybody's well, I'm beyond that point to be honest, personally, that we're all going to be like, look, I'm done with this guy, this red, and I'm done with this blue, and we're going to try something new because it's clearly not working.
Right. Yeah. And I think, we always talk about it. We know there's at least 75 million people. And that's not just my opinion. It's so many thousands of comments that I've received. It's just like, how do we galvanize those people? How do we get them to think outside of their mindset that it doesn't have to be blue versus red? I mean, it is now, but if there was enough people, it doesn't have to be. I know I sound like a broken record to you, but maybe not to the other people on here. So
No, you're good.
I appreciate you bearing with me. You're going to hear it a lot more.
I'm used to it by now.
All right, good, good. So the Real America First Party, nothing is going to happen. Does anybody else want to jump into the box and share their thoughts on like what's going to happen next? I mean,
John Kay, he was talking some smack up there. I wonder if he wants to join.
where is John? What was he saying? This is something I can repeat. Yeah, the Democrat has destroyed our country. See, yeah, definitely
Further
talk.
up,
Oh,
what is wrong with you? He had told them to release everything. It sounds like he has something to say, and I'm just curious what it is.
Yeah, John K, jump into the box and request if your comments have if they have validity, share them what you think a little bit deeper. Let's see if he's jumping in. No, Indie Television is up next. So Indie Television, what do you think is next about the Epstein list saga? What's up,
Yeah,
Indy?
what's going on?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Good, I'm good.
So what's next with
Yeah,
this? Where are we going?
nothing's gonna happen. I mean, I don't think Trump did anything, so I don't think anything's gonna happen either.
What? What? I'm really curious. Okay, so he has many videos and photos of him with
With
Epstein.
Epstein.
So what makes you think that he didn't? It's claimed that it was also his best friend, which I don't want to go down that route. Obviously, they were close at some points in history. So how can you think that he's not on the list?
How do I think he's not on the list? I
Yeah, for
mean,
the
the
guy that
Democrats never put
bought
it
a
out.
pageant so that he could go to the back rooms, basically the guy that said, I can grab women by the blank and they'll just go with it. Like what makes you think this guy was just all
Yeah.
talk and no action?
How do we know that was even really him? How do you know that wasn't a voice impersonator?
Oh boy, I don't do conspiracies, man.
All
Well,
right,
I
I'm just
get
I'm just saying.
yeah.
I just asked the question. All right, you say you don't do conspiracies. Okay, here's what I'm saying.
This
Real
is why
quick,
the
right?
Epstein list to me is like I sort of like on it's gray area for me because it's a conspiracy sort of, but there's a lot of smoke, right? And the smoke seems to have validity. Otherwise, I don't get into it.
I mean, but see, okay, when you look at the history of Donald Trump being a president, there's been a lot of conspiracies with smoke,
Sure.
and they turned out to be nothing, right? I mean, we had the Russia conspiracy, that was nothing.
Russia released the files. What was it? Russia what?
Russia Gate, Russia Gate.
Yeah, but he did say Russia released interfere in
They
the
released
election, right? I
files.
forget the exact words.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Why is everybody so mistrustful of the American voter? I mean, you're saying a few Facebook posts can sway an election. That's what I'm saying. So, like, here's the thing, right? If there was a smoking gun, you would have saw it during the election. We would have saw it. They would have had everything. They would have rolled it out. They
Sure.
rolled out 34 felonies. I mean, how are they gonna not roll this out?
Roll what out?
The whatever was on the list.
Right. Are the American people so dumb to the point that he hoodwinked, the mass majority that voted for him? I think, the collective perspective or judgment on it, everybody's, I guess, maybe agreed that it's not an issue anymore. I don't know.
No, it's not. I mean, they keep they're saying everything's a cover up right now. Oh, he's just doing this Portland stuff. He's doing this Chicago stuff for to cover up. But I think he's just moving on with his agenda.
Sure. And what
You
is
know,
his agenda?
to make America great.
How's he doing with eliminating corruption from our government? How's that going?
How's he doing with eliminating corruption? I mean, look, we got James Comey, we got
Oh,
Letitia
dude. Oh,
James,
come on, man.
we
This is
got a
this
few
this is
people
persecuting political opposition. If you can't see that,
persecuted political opposition. No, these people broke the seal on that, right? I mean,
oh, come
they were
on.
persecuting Trump.
He tells Pam Bondi that you need to take action against Comey before he's the statute of
Okay,
limitations wears out, and then she won't. Then they have to fire a prosecutor and hire a new prosecutor with no prosecutor experience in order to prosecute him. Like he's going to be innocent. He's
that remains to be seen. Remains to be
yeah.
seen.
All right, maybe.
You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing, right? This is the new normal. The Democrats, how do you think he got those 34 felonies? You don't think Biden had anything to do with this?
There is no. You're making a leap because there is no communication whatsoever between Biden and Letitia James as a New York district office that then persecuted him, and then he was ultimately found guilty by a jury of his peers, like American citizens found him guilty. Like that, you think that's made up?
Yeah, I think it was made up. I think it was a witch hunt. I
Yeah, that's
think
what
it was a.
everyone just goes back to, the witch hunts.
I think it was a kangaroo court, man. I mean, listen,
Oh boy.
listen. You have this guy. He's got these charges like they're already
Did
been.
Sandy Hook happen?
Sandy
Did
Hook.
we land on the moon? Is the Earth flat? I mean,
Oh, you trying to say if the Earth's flat? Listen, I don't think the Earth is flat. I think it's
all right,
round.
all right, we agree with that.
I
How
mean,
about
come
at the
on,
moon?
man.
Did we land on the moon?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
All right. How about Sandy Hook? Did that happen?
I wasn't there either.
Geez, what generation are you? I gotta make sure you're legal. Are you over 18?
Yeah, I'm
Where
33.
have you been, Indy? Have you been at work? You just been working.
I've been working, man. Look. You know what I'm saying? Stuff that I wasn't there for, I could just say maybe it happened.
Did we ever, was there ever such thing as a Constitution and Declaration of Independence that was ever signed?
Maybe.
Did you not go in 8th grade? Did they not take you to Washington, D.C. like they did me?
Look, of course, it's a Constitution, Declaration of Independence.
Oh, but
I'm
you
just
weren't
saying,
alive then. I mean, come on.
yeah, I wasn't alive. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if they fabricated it or not.
Oh, shit. I don't think World War II even happened. I think you're right.
Could have not. I wasn't there.
Dang, you sound like another guest we had in the last call. It's like, hey, if I didn't see it with my own eyes, man, it didn't happen.
No,
Hey,
I didn't
but
say
wait,
it
I
didn't
know where you
happen.
were. You must have been on the island and you saw something. Can you let me know what happened?
What island?
Well, I think that plays into a bigger theme though, is that the human experience is that we tend to trust our own intuition. And if we weren't able to personally witness it and we're purely solely relying on the media that we know is lying and is misleading us, or the corporate uh, oligarchs that are influencing what
Hmm.
information we can see, and how can one actually differentiate and have discernment to know what it is, and then is it really worth our energy to think about it if we're never going to know, and
Yeah,
is it
that's
going to
why you
come
have to
out?
have. That's why you have to have evidence and critical thinking. Like if you watch a plane crash, right, and you witness the whole thing, and a news reporter shows up, I promise you, unless you're a plane expert, and even then, you are going to give a tremendous amount of misleading information about what happened. Did the plane stall? Does that mean the engine was off? Does that mean the plane just fell out of the sky? Like every time a plane crashes and someone witnesses it, it's a complete, even though they witnessed it themselves, what they say is oftentimes completely misleading and inaccurate. I mean,
Well,
that's,
you just lit the fire for the thing that just happened recently with CK. I mean, we all saw it. I saw it on TikTok and we watched it. And then when they come out with their story, but yet you see all of the different information and the videos of it, you start to wonder which this doesn't make sense.
yeah. I mean, that's what Russia's been doing for hundreds of thousands of years on terms of propaganda, right? And I mean, everybody has done it, exploited and manipulated people to some extent, even, of course, our own media. But there's different levels, right?
Right.
There's different levels. All right. Well, Indy, thanks for joining us. And
All
I'm
right,
going to take
man.
somebody else. All right. So I think the next discussion has to be, did we have a moon landing, and see if there's enough people that witnessed it so they can confirm whether it actually happened. Hey, I don't know
Me,
if that's interesting for people.
were you there? Did you land there? You saw it?
I was there, man. Absolutely. I was stardust at that point. I had
You
a
were in
front row
that
seat.
you were in that Hollywood studio with the with the green screens.
Yeah. Well, unless we agree on some sort of values and system of, that's why we have, that's why we have juries and evidence and prosecutors and all that stuff, right? It's not all
I
accurate
think the argument though is why haven't we gone back with our newer technology?
because
You
we
know?
didn't find shit there.
It
Well,
was just a bunch of craters and
yeah, you
rocks.
looked up in the night sky and you thought maybe there's something there, and we get there like, hey, man, there's nothing here. All right.
We couldn't tell that from down here.
Right, exactly. We had to go see it for ourselves because, just in case those, telescopes we're using were not telling us the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, we got Jesus or Jesus on the line. Welcome, Jesus.
That's me. Thank you.
Welcome. So what do you think was about this Epstein list? What's the next shoe to drop, if there's any shoe to drop? Or should we just bury it?
Yeah, I'm going to be quite frank. For the past 12 years, uh, for the past 12 out of 16 years, we've been under Democratic rule. Where's the list? If y'all are gonna take such a what is it, the higher plane of everything, right? Where's the list?
Why are you
Y'all have been in
blaming?
control
Well,
for
why
all
would you
this
blame
time.
the last administration when this guy campaigned on releasing the list? They didn't campaign on
I
releasing it.
understand you're trying to deflect on Trump, whatever the case may be, but
No, this is
if
reality,
if
because
the
that's where
left,
we are
if the
today.
Democrat, if the Democratic Party is supposed to take the higher plane, right?
And
Y'all are
right,
so
and
righteous,
did they?
right?
Maybe they did do that.
Are
Maybe
y'all are is Obama and Biden so righteous to the point where they're not able to expose the Epstein list? They've been in power for this long, 12 years.
what do
I
you mean?
see what he's
For the
saying.
past 16 years, Trump has only been in power for 4 years, right? Obama took 8 years, right? Where's the common sense?
All right.
I'm your brother. I'm an American. I appreciate you. You're probably in California. I'm in Texas, right?
Why would you say I'm?
I
Why
appreciate
would
you.
you
We're
think that I'm
both
in
American.
California? I'm not in California now.
And well, it's look. This is my psychological assessment of you. You're a high orderly person according to your background because you have everything in line. You have all your tools where they need to be and where you
Yep,
can find them.
I am
You're a high
organized.
orderly person,
Yep,
right?
very organized. Yep.
Now, what's problematic about this assessment of you, right, is that it's easy to hack people of high orderly nature with nonsensical stuff or it's the same as these hyper intelligent people that committed 9/11, right? These hyper intelligent people with master's degrees went on airplanes and crashed them into 9/11 because they were high orderly people
All
under
right.
Islamic
Like I
faith,
said, I don't do
right?
conspiracies. I don't do conspiracies unless you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
No,
not
you're
doing
not
it.
hallucinating.
I'm doing a psychological. I'm doing a background
Right, and I'm going to cut you
on
off
you,
on
right?
because you're
You're a
going.
high orderly person. You're a
Okay, so I'm going to turn him down because if he's just going to talk over me, it's my show. I'm not going to let him talk over me. So let's be very clear. I don't do conspiracies. Bring some evidence, and I don't switch gears. But I will answer his question. I'm a fierce independent. I'm not defending Biden or Obama. Let's say, is there any thought that actually a Biden or Obama is on this list? I actually don't know the answer to that question. So let me say this. I don't think either of those guys have ever been suspected of being on the list. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments if I'm wrong about that. I don't believe so. Again, this is not my area of deep knowledge. So when it comes to this particular issue, if let's say this list was known to be in Obama's hands and in Biden's hands, why didn't they release it? I'm not going to defend them. If this was known and this was an issue that people wanted to know about, which I don't know, can you guys still hear him or is it off? All right. All right. I just booted him. I turned his volume down, but I don't know. Mr. Global, could you still hear him?
Yeah, when you were talking, he was still talking too.
Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. I thought I had control of his mic and I don't. So instead I had to kick him. Okay. So go ahead.
Oh, I think that was other feedback from something else. I don't know what that was.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have was Obama ever suspected or Biden of being on this list? I don't think so, right?
I, I, I don't. Well, here's the deal. Yes, one of them was allegedly.
Okay. One of them was allegedly. Okay. Nicole says no, but let's say they weren't allegedly on there, but let's say they were covering up for other people because we know there's other people in power and influence, and maybe they didn't. I'm not going to defend them. If they had the list and if it was important, was it important back in the Obama days? Were people talking about this in depth? I don't really remember. Clinton was. We know definitely Clinton was, right? And of course, he's part of the Democratic Party. So there's definitely a reason for any Democratic president to maybe shield this list. So I won't defend that whatsoever. If that list was important to people to see, we should absolutely be transparent on that list. So go back to the last guest's If he thinks I'm so high and righteous that I'm defending Biden and Obama, absolutely not. This list should have been out by then if it was available to them, which again, I don't know.
I think Jesus's argument was just that though, when these things were occurring, most of it was occurring during a time of a different rule or a different party in charge, which then maybe should pique one's interest to know who's actually the one doing the deed.
Right. So I think Biden's son was presumed to be on the list, right? Or has some impact with obviously
It
underage
was
kids
just
as well.
all we have is flight logs. We just have flight logs as to who and what planes went certain places and who was on those flights.
And there's also the list apparently was published on the internet. That's what I heard from many people already, that it's out there.
Sure.
Right. So
I don't
anyway,
know
so you
enough
could call
about
it, people could go, why, this deflection of why didn't the Democrats release it? Why didn't the Republicans release it? I don't know. And I'm not defending it. It should have been released. I'll tell it right now. It should have been released then. If that was something that the far right wanted to be released, it should have been released. But this guy campaigned on it. And now it's a bigger issue now than it ever has been. So, and now we're still not getting the list. So, you want to blame both parties? Go for it. Blame both parties. I'm not defending any of these politicians. That's not
Sure.
what I do. It's not what I care about at all. So anyway,
No, you're independent.
all right, I'm independent. Yeah, I have some progressive leanings. I also have some conservative leanings, and some, you might think
We don't want to participate in any of those shenanigans because that's not our character. That's not what we do. We're not we're not those types of people.
right. And
That
yeah, exactly.
I
Right.
don't want to take advantage of kids or women or minorities or any of that stuff. It's just like we just want good people, right?
Right.
Just be a good person.
Moral integrity and character, right? That's all we want. And that's all we expect about our politicians. And that's why the list is so important, because it's going to maybe be the last straw that drops, right? That says, okay, all these people are, just get them out. I don't know how that
Right.
happens other than like what we're trying to do. But all right, the answer is so simple. Meadow, if the answer is so simple, will you join and tell us? Tell me. I earnestly want to know. And without going to the Democratic versus Republican bullshit back and forth fights, because I think that's just a waste of time. Neither Biden nor Obama were suspected of being on the list, right? But we know Clinton was on the list, so that's good. Epstein was a great blackmailer, but not as great as Diddy. Oh, right. And Diddy, even, I don't mind if you go into Diddy too, because, Trump was talking about pardoning Diddy and going back to moral integrity and decency. Like, this guy's one of the worst sex offenders in history, right?
Yeah. Talk about some diabolical actions.
Yeah. Welcome, Meadow.
Hey, so I'm not an expert on the Epstein stuff, but this one question is actually easy to answer because there was an ongoing active case during both Trump's first term and during Biden's term. And so during that time, it was legally impossible to release any of that. It didn't really have anything to do with whether it was important or not. It was just legally not possible.
Right,
Wow.
because it was
Okay.
going through that. Now that you said it, that makes so much sense, right? It just totally slipped my mind that was a case. But again, like you, I don't pay that close attention to it, so that just slipped my mind.
Yeah, that's all. I was just wanted to, because that is a question that I hear MAGA asking a lot, which like a lot of things, I don't think they're genuinely asking a question. I think they're just trying to make a point, but they don't know the basics. And that's just like something that keeps getting repeated in their circles. And so it's just nice to be able to say, like, no, this is the answer and it's really simple, Of
Right.
course, they don't want to hear it either, but
Well,
anyway,
thanks
that's
for
all I
coming on
wanted
and
to.
telling us. I mean,
Yeah,
and updating us, because right, Mr. Global and I just didn't connect the dots there.
yeah, no problem. Thanks a
All
lot.
right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, so I mean that's succinct. That was clearly an answer that a lot of people agreed with. Thanks, Angie and User 31. Everybody said, like, okay, yeah, hey, we can miss the obvious frequently. I'm not going to claim that we can't, and that makes the most sense, right? And I don't know how you would really argue with that, but of course some people would, right?
Is there a bigger power play for the people to use here to just completely ignore all of these people? You know, the Diddy stuff, the Epstein stuff. Is there more power in not ignoring it, but just like completely shunning them out of participating in society? Like,
Right,
why are we you give them more power, by even talking about them, you know?
right, right. Well, if anyone else wants to join in and then go on with that, it's like I still, just like last month, I still don't understand the end game. I still don't understand what really changes, if anything. I just can't envision really anything change. Like, where does MAGA move to? Do they then all back JD Vance? Which in some ways, not some ways, like, I don't have affectionate feelings towards Trump, as you know, but I view JD Vance as a much more evil, like pure evil, because of who backs him. And that's my bigger concern is if like, but I just can't see, like we talked about yesterday, messaging versus messenger. The messenger is more important than the messaging, because any great messenger can deliver any message they want and get people to follow them. That's been true throughout human history, whether that's hateful messaging or hopeful messaging. You can go back to Reagan, hopeful messaging, Clinton, hopeful messaging, Obama, hopeful messaging for the most part, right? Then there's some of the agnostics in between, and then Trump, a combination of hopeful and hateful, depending on who he was speaking to, basically. Right.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's not brilliance by any means. I don't think it's like some genius at all. I just think it's, the simplicity of knowing who if in his case, knowing who he is and him knowing his voice. He was something that he perfected, right? He knew his audience that he appealed to. He didn't give a shit. He had FU money. So he just said what was on his mind, and he fell into like, hey, wow, like a lot of people follow me, even though I say things that are a little weird.
And that's exactly it.
Yeah. So there
That's
is a simplicity of brilliance. Like most, you know, leaders, whether they've been fascists or someone hopeful, have really just leaned one way or the other. Well, I guess that's not true. You can even take Hitler, right? He had a message of unity to his fascist group of white Aryans. And of course, everybody else, it was all hateful to. So maybe that is the recipe for anybody that truly wants to push their plans forward, is to, speak to your base and then just blame the people that are not your base, right? I don't know.
And then the average, what do they say? The average reading level, you have to be able to appeal to the average Joe, right? You can't have a highly intellectual individual get in. It's less likely for them to get in because
Yeah.
they, what am I trying to say?
It's
They
like having
don't,
in a classroom, the class can't move forward if there's someone holding them back, right? That you have to teach to the lowest level, and then everybody is on the same page, versus if
right,
you leave those certain groups of people in the dust because you're trying to teach something that's beyond them,
exactly.
right? I don't know if it's the best way to say it, but anyway, so if there's anybody else that wants to join, Meadow, thank you for that last comment. I mean, you might almost just shut down this live because you kind of answered it, at least in that respect, right? But when it comes to the Epstein list saga, I still think it just doesn't seem it's going away. And normally this is weird, because normally when it's a situation like this, you have the opposite side is the one pushing it so hard, right? It's not your own base. So, it's like if you
Mhm.
do gun rights, for instance, everyone's looking to the liberals to enact sort of gun rights. And I would say, no, it's people who own the guns are supportive. I would rather see them the ones putting forth solutions versus the gun rights lobbyists that are trying to restrict guns. Like, to me, because that's normally how it happens, right? It's the other side that's usually trying to push the opposite agenda. But on this case, it's the same side. That's what's most like appealing to me and bewildering at the same time.
I think On that topic, I've had some thoughts. Most of a lot of the, you know, I don't know what words I can say or not, but there's an age group thing going on. It's from like 24 to 28 or 29 is committing X amount of these types of things, and then from 30 to 35 are most of the um, massacres. And I have a feeling there's something there that maybe we have to explore, as that could be the answer. Uh, with social media, and the prefrontal cortex and the human body doesn't fully form until the age of 26. Um, you're not making educated, good decisions,
Mm.
during those times. And maybe there needs to be more of an age aspect to that gun ownership.
Right, right. But that goes against the Second Amendment, and this is where I'll show my constitutional sort of beliefs, right? Even though you can definitely make an argument that, it's based on militia, right? The first word is based on a well-regulated militia. Nonetheless, American culture has a steep culture in gun ownership, and to think that there's going to be a dramatic changes in who can own guns is, in my mind, ridiculous, and just not ridiculous, but not feasible, because it's not just about that it's in the Constitution. It's like we have such a deep culture of gun ownership. So it's a matter of how do we become more responsible with that gun ownership. And I know we're way off topic, but
Yeah,
that's my
I
thought.
wasn't trying to go off on that tangent.
No, but we're always trying to connect the dots to some other issue, right? That sort of can make a good analogy. Red Iron Ranch says he will create an event that makes the American people feel like we have to come together. Oh, wait. That would be an amazing if that could ever happen. I'm normally an optimist, but I still don't think that will happen. But that would be amazing. Like if, yeah, I guess it is possible. I guess you even said it, Mr. Global. Like if enough people were so fed up about all these people in power and influence from all the billionaires and all the politicians that might be on the list, would it allow an opportunity for some other movement to grow? I guess that would be maybe the hope.
Yeah, I see it. Like, let's imagine for a second, the list comes out, we have names on it, MAGA gets upset, the left gets upset, far left, far right, everybody's very upset about it. And then what are they doing? Are they going into offices? Are they dragging them out? Are they putting them into jail cells? And then the next step is, who do you replace them with? So now you replace Trump with JD Vance, right?
Yeah,
And
but so
then,
that would have to. So you're basically talking a 25th Amendment, right? I mean, the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office. That would have to happen because they're not dragging anybody out because he's the chief executive, right? So he controls the military and all the police.
well, I think at that point though, everybody's so upset about it. I think there's an inflection point, right, where the anger or the disapproval of the masses gets so great that we kind of say, look, we're gonna just do this right now and take care of it.
Yeah, I would love to get Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I don't believe I'm ever going to say these words. If we can get Marjorie Taylor Greene on the live, because I bet you she, as I don't respect her whatsoever, but when it comes to this, I think she probably has an end game in mind.
That, and what's the other one? Mace? Is it Nancy Mace?
Yeah, Nancy Mace as well from South Carolina.
She's on that like white on rice too, so
Yeah,
at least
interesting.
I think she is.
Yeah, she was on Bill Maher last week talking about it and saying it's give us a few weeks. It's definitely coming out. So I would love to know because they would probably have the best insight on what their end game is because they've had to think it through. Like, okay, there have been huge Trump supporters. Should he be on the list? And they are females as well, both of them, right? So they don't give a shit about male temptations and all the shit that males have done, white males have done, and might be on the list. To them, it's a power play for them,
Right.
right?
When I see JD Vance, sorry, I was looking at Alice. I think I don't want us to shoot ourselves in the foot. We have to assume the best in someone until they prove otherwise. Even if he was, there's still a little kid inside of that grown man's body that knows the difference between right and wrong,
Who are you talking
right?
about?
JD Vance.
Oh,
I don't know. I know the whole Peter Thiel and the he's got some stuff going on in the background, but I don't know. I feel like good always prevails, and it it has to. It has to.
it doesn't when it comes to psychopaths and sociopaths or people. If he's tough to pin down, but when when he is bought and paid for by his whole career and his whole adult life and everything he has done to enrich himself over the past 10 years, 15 years has come directly from the Silicon Valley corporate monarchs, Peter Thiel being the main guy. And there's a few other people behind him, David Sachs and others. So he has to be, I don't, even if you thought he had some light in him, he has been bought and paid for. He knows who his masters are, and he's just a puppet. And those masters have much more nefarious plans. And this is not conjecture. You just have to go back and listen to the conferences that Peter Thiel and just go to David Sachs's Twitter feed. And if you just look at these people, these are just disgusting human beings that don't care whatsoever about humanity at all. They only care about their own fiefdoms and power. And I know that's and again, it's not conjecture. I would just ask everybody that's watching, just if you're not familiar with the PayPal mafia, just go back to the PayPal mafia. Many of these people, Elon Musk used to be in the PayPal mafia. They even endorsed that term. When it was in Time magazine, the PayPal mafia, they viewed themselves as a technology mafia because they were going to use technology first and foremost at the beginning to try and replace the dollar as the global reserve currency. I mean, that was ultimately the plan of PayPal. It failed spectacularly. They had no chance of making it happen, but they had very anti-democratic views back then. Back then, they considered themselves libertarians. They don't consider themselves libertarians anymore. They consider themselves, if you look at Curtis Yarvin, he has I forget what it's called right now. Someone in the comments will know Curtis Yarvin and his theory. This guy's just a creep. Yarvin argues for corporate monarchy, but there's a certain philosophy that he has. Curtis Yarvin's plot against America. And these people, Peter Thiel and David Sachs and a couple others, have openly in conferences, sort of like these private conferences that have been public, so public-private, talked about subscribing to Curtis Yarvin's view of how democracy has failed and it needs to be replaced with a corporate monarch or a CEO style governance or executive, which is, again, that's just code for authoritarianship.
Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, I hear you. I would like to think that way as well. But I always tell you, people tell you and show you who they are. And JD Vance has told us and showed us who he is. And more importantly, the people that have allowed him to get into this position have showed themselves over the past 30 years. People don't change that much, right?
Right. Well,
I would love to be wrong, but I could bet virtually anything on it other than my own life and the lives of my kids. Other than that, I would bet everything on it.
well, I think there's bigger powers at play. These are just men. These are just fleshly little bodies that they deteriorate. They go away. It's not nothing ever lasts forever.
Yeah, it's
And
ego.
I
Right?
think
There's always someone else to replace some evil man with another evil man, though.
well, you just gotta pull their strings, their heartstrings. You gotta make them cry. You gotta make them feel like the little baby inside that where whoever hurt them as a child. You just have to attack that.
Right.
it make them feel bad
Yeah, you got to
because they
punch
have
the
no
bullies. Got to
feelings.
get punched, but the problem is they rarely get punched because they're so they're always defending themselves with their money.
Well, yeah, and they're in gated communities away from everybody else.
Right,
So
private airplanes. They go to the private parts of the airports. They live completely in different
it's
chambers than anybody. Do they go to the grocery store? No. Do they fill up their own gas? No. Do they go to 9 to 5 jobs? No. Do they do literally anything that all of us do on a regular basis? No.
right. Yeah, it was like, is it Larry Fink? Yeah, Larry Fink,
Hmm.
BlackRock. That guy kind of, something about him don't sit right with me.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like a JD, well, different from JD Vance, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't. There's just an old saying that power corrupts and ultimate power corrupts, right? And you can't say that you're too good or you have too much moral integrity to say that it couldn't happen to you. You just don't know, right? You're always making sacrifices and decisions to protect your own things in your life. And usually it's just family, friends and family in your house. But when you get that sort of level, maybe your idea to protect something that's, that you've built for 20 years, and that's usually your wealth, or protect what you're hiding from being exposed, which is maybe like the Epstein files,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're all, no one is so high and mighty, even with my tools being organized. I'm not to say that again.
Well,
that
you
you,
should see my garage because I do that type of work, and yours is really, really clean. I wish mine looked like that.
Yeah, well, the difference is between I don't have to do it every day for a job, right? I do it
That's
more on the
true.
side. So I have time in between. I'm not, for me, it's more like therapeutic. I spend a lot of time building engines and so forth, rebuilding motorcycle engines and things like that. But I don't have to do it. Like I can take weeks to do it. You're doing it for work. So
You know exactly where that crescent wrench is, and I don't. Mine's hidden in beneath a bunch of piles of stuff sometimes,
I know exactly. I can just reach right to it. Right there it is.
and then it goes back right where it belongs.
Absolutely. Not only that, when I'm doing the work, it actually goes back in between. Like I'll have a small pile of tools, but if I know I'm not using it for a little while, it goes back up.
Hmm.
Yeah, you get a little too anal after a while. But anyways, we're way off topic, but thanks for everybody for sticking with us on the random banter. Does anyone else want to join and talk about this, or should we call it a close? Is there anything like what's the next shoe to drop on the Epstein list? If you have any thoughts on it, because I am utterly still confused on where this goes. And I just want some hardcore MAGA person to tell me like a third grader, where this goes. Someone that's been thinking about it. It could be someone that's in the turning point group or someone that's just been paying attention to this for the past 10 or 15 years. Like, tell me like I'm a third grader, like, where does this go and why does this matter so much? Because I still don't get it.
Oh, come on. My neighbors don't go to the grocery store. I've got to be honest. I don't go to the grocery store. We order from my Walmart shows up and just drops it off.
Oh, you're one of those?
I just can't stand going into a supermarket, my friend. I just can't. I hate it.
Mm, yeah. Well, okay. I guess a lot of people are doing that these days. I still go to the store and I actually read the labels. After 50 years, I learned to read the ingredients and realize how much we're being polluted with highly processed foods, right?
I'm not, you're much better than me.
Oh, well, I wasn't, you're 31. I think you said the other day, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't there at 31 either. And I was eating like shit. And now I decided, okay, I'm going to change my ways and at some point, time and opportunity meet one another, and then you start to work on things.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right. The true details will never be released. I guess that's true. Like after a government has had these documents for so long, and they've talked about sitting on their desk, and they talked about redacting them, and they talk like at this point, are they just remanufacturing this list? Alice says, I love going shopping. The older you get, it's a night out. Alice, I'm embarrassed to agree with you. It's almost like date night going to a store, especially if it's like Trader Joe's. I agree. I agree to some extent, sadly. But Yeah. So I guess our random banter doesn't always have to go to this prompt. I guess some people don't mind hanging in here as we speak about random life things. But I guess that's what's really important, right? Random things in life and how do we make our lives better. And so this would be my housekeeping opportunity. So the 32 people that are here watching, if you haven't followed yet, please do. You can see my moniker, TK Civics. I'm an advocate for civics. And most importantly, when it comes to that, it's not about specific issues. You can have disagreements with me or Mr. Global about our issues. Thank you for the fan club. That's cool. That helps the live get exposed. I don't mind the disagreements about specific issues. I only care about the values and principles and the values of the Constitution. That is the law of the land is the Constitution. And I will always try and remind younger Americans in particular that that document was a vision for America's future and that we always need to respect it, even if you believe there's flaws to that document. It's not about whether it's perfect to you. It's about, is it relatively perfect to our society and to the world, not just our society, because so many documents and so many forms of government have been based off of our Constitution that have come afterwards. So if you don't understand the law of the land, the Constitution, and you are cherry picking what you agree with and what you don't agree with, then I don't think you are an American, and you certainly don't have, well, you may be an American citizen, but you don't have American values. Because if you truly have American values, and people always say, well, what are your values? You're a white guy. What are your values? My values are the same values that everybody should have. And I'll read them. And in case people, lose track of it, and I get it, it's freedom and liberty. Every race, every sex, everybody should agree with that, hopefully, except for if you're a communist or a fascist. We know who we're talking about, right, Mr. Global? And sorry, I know, low-hanging fruit. Equality, democracy, the rule of law, like, hard work and self-reliance, that's also an American value. Innovation, diversity and pluralism, and fairness and justice, and patriotism, right? Having pride in the country and the founding ideals while also striving to improve it. That's what's interesting. Patriotism. I want to read that because that's really interesting. That definition of patriotism is pride in country and its founding ideals. So it's not just having pride in your country. It's about its founding ideals, which are American values and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, while also striving to improve it. So you can improve the document because the document has been designed to evolve over time, but that's not always that easy to do. So I'd ask all people that are here watching this that please respect the civics and the Constitution and the American values. You have to, because we're being told by lots of different forces that democracy is not that important, or you'll hear that we're not even a democracy anymore. And technically that might be, well, technically it's untrue. We are a representative democracy, but from a functional standpoint, it's probably not true. We're probably a corporatocracy or a plutocracy. And you might look at how can you be technically one thing, but functionally something else? Well, you can just look at China, for example. China is ruled by a communist government, but they don't practice communism. Their economy is based on socialism. You can look at Russia, and Russia claims to be, they have voting. They say they have voting, but they have no political opposition. So there's no one for them to run against. So they're essentially a single party system. And they're a mafia state. They don't even operate as communism or socialism or capitalism or democracy. They are just a mafia state. So you can claim to be one thing or technically be one thing, but be functionally something different. And that's what we have here in the United States is we're technically a representative democracy, but we're not functioning as one. And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. And the reason we're not functioning as one is because the influences from the special interest groups and all the big money in our government has forced all of our politicians to represent them before they represent the people. So I know that was long-winded, but hopefully that was clear to everybody. So if you haven't followed me here, that's my goal, is to work towards eliminating corruption of special interest billionaires, corporations, and eliminating lobbyists. Because if we don't do that, I don't see any way other than a generational leader steps up and comes by and changes everything. Otherwise, I just can't see us really moving on beyond this red versus blue thing.
Nailed it.
Can I take a breath now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Take a breather. Take a load off.
Should we read a few comments? Alice never really realized how bright our forefathers were. Me too. I mean, I always knew that they were, you hear a lot of people talk down to them or talk shit about them or discredit them. But the founding fathers, as flawed men that they were in their practice, sort of like what we talked a minute ago, they are flawed in their morals because they had 18th century morals on slavery and other aspects. But they didn't want that to be the way going forward. Like half of the founding fathers were openly against slavery from early days, even when they owned slaves. So it's complicated. But the more important thing is not the people, because everyone likes to discredit, not everybody, but there are certain people who like to discredit our forefathers as people, as flawed human beings. But what they don't try and discredit is the actual document and the values that they set up, which was disconnected from their flawed morality. And that's the brilliance of these people, is they were incredibly well educated and they were scholars and they knew they had flaws and they wanted to set something up that allowed us to evolve as our moral integrity evolved through the centuries. And that's what I think the brilliance. So Alice, your point of never really realized how bright our forefathers were. Like you, I have always taken it for granted as well. And I don't think it's wrong, right? And if anyone ever starts to discredit those people, I think you have to fight back with not who they were, but what they were intending to create, the vision versus the practical reality on the ground at that time.
I think that's what was part of earlier's discussion about the flag that perturbed me so much, is that everyone was saying that it's just a cloth, it's just a piece of fabric, it's just, whatever. But for me, it represents the hope, the future,
Mm.
the past, it's the fabric of our society. Like, to think that somebody would desecrate that, it it pains me to my core. And if and it's not only hurtful to everyone else, but they end up hurting themselves because they are a part of this, whether they like it or not. And I understand people want to, that's their way of showing their disapproval or their discontent with something, but I don't know. It hurts to know that
Yeah, from
that's somebody's.
a symbolism perspective, what other than violence, right? Like, what else can you do that's more like we're talking about burning the flag, which is something we talked about earlier in an earlier live. And what else from symbolism does more without harming someone? Like you're basically saying, so you're, I guess what they would be saying if you're burning the flag is like, I believe in our American values so much that they think if the government is not adhering to those values, then I'm going to burn the flag to show you that I'm actually more American. That I know they can make that argument that I'm more American because I'm burning the flag, showing that I believe in the values, but the government is effing them up. And maybe, maybe that's a stretch, but someone can make whatever argument they want. And I think that has validity. It has some merit to it.
I hear what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
I just don't want us to be so insecure about that issue. Like, come on, we've moved beyond. Yes, it's not just a piece of cloth by any means. It has a lot of symbolism and a lot of meaning. And behind that is the Constitution of the United States and its values. But if the government ever gets so out of whack, just the flag doesn't really mean anything. So if you lose democracy, right, and you no longer follow the Constitution, but you still have the flag, like there's a complete disconnect from those things.
I looked up some other countries' procedures when it comes to the flag. Like Germany, they don't allow anyone to burn the flag, that they're against it. But Japan, you can burn your own flag, but you can't burn anyone else's flags for diplomatic reasons. They don't want that to go out on the
Mm-hmm.
airwaves. and for there to be a big snafu about whatever. So I don't know.
So you're not allowed
Everybody's got
to,
their own.
Germans aren't allowed to burn their flag?
No.
What's interesting is there's so much shame still in Germany is that the Germans don't fly their flags. You will see it in some sporting events occasionally here and there. You're seeing it more again, but there's, such a still the effects after World War II is that you don't see many German flags on houses or on certain days and holidays. It's just not, you'll see it on soccer shirts, but that's kind of it.
My grandmother was a first generation German, and my great grandfather was in the military and brought back my great grandmother um, with him. He was a U.S. citizen, and she was from Germany. So that's my heritage is there.
Same,
So
same. Mine as well. By the way, I know you asked me the other day, do you have kids as well or no?
I don't personally know,
Okay.
but my partner does.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's go. Does anyone else want to join us and talk about these Epstein files? Rounding back to the Epstein files in a roundabout way. What's the end game with the Epstein files? Anyone have any thoughts, or are we just so bored of this, or not bored? What's the word? Exhausted?
Burned out.
Burned out. Are we just so burned out about the Epstein files that there's only 29 people here listening? Or I'm going to put one last call out. If there's anybody that's hardcore MAGA, please join me here. Please join Mr. Global and I. And by the way, if you haven't followed Mr. Global, please do that as well. Please join me, jump into the box, and let me know your thoughts. I would really like to hear. Upstate Michael, I know you lean right. You're not a hardcore MAGA by any means. So I don't know if you're the best person to answer this question, but I would love to know a hardcore MAGA person that can give me a little bit more context on what happens if the Epstein list is released and Trump is on it, or if he's not on it. Like, what does that mean? Alice lived in Germany, beautiful country, loved it there, and a lot of similarities. Alice, something interesting is I actually was at the Nordschleife of this year, the Nuremberg Ring. Are you familiar with the Nuremberg Ring, Mr. Global?
Yes.
I was there this year, and what an amazing place that is. Amazing countryside. Yeah. I did not drive it this year, but I will. I will drive it next year. So, Upstate Michael, you're joining as you get your connection. So, welcome back. I always enjoy hearing from you. So, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, what do you have any thoughts on where this is going with the Epstein files?
I don't have any details, but I just have a thought that on his island and in his home in New York City and out in Texas, I think it was, it's well known and been discussed about the videotaping that has been done in every room, and his usage for that was to blackmail people.
Right. Is it proven that
in my mind?
Sorry, was it proven that there's cameras on the island? Like, has that been?
Yeah, the FBI has gathered the footage.
Okay.
To my knowledge, that's the reporting that I've read. Now, it may not be accurate because the media distorts everything they put out.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't imagine that ever getting released. Any of it. I mean, and then people are saying there's not even a list.
Well,
I just think it's so deep. And then Dan Bongino. Do you know Dan Bongino? Did you ever follow him?
A little bit. Yep.
Okay. Well, he had his own podcast, and he's now the assistant FBI director. And in my mind, he sold his soul because all during his podcast, and you can go in there and listen to some of the things he said before he got into government that about the Epstein list, and he gave out a lot of details. But yet, then when he gets into the FBI, him and Cash a week before state that Epstein killed himself, and there is no list. There is this, and then Trump at his press conference started getting all huffy about the list and berating people that wanted to know about the list, which is his own mega people, including myself. You know, if he's on the list, hey, you know what? He needs to suffer the consequences. These are kids. You know, these are underage kids. So,
Right.
but then I look at the power. I mean, everybody in power, not everybody, but most in power get corrupt, and they get people thrown at them, and they all cheat and do things they shouldn't be doing. And you mentioned it earlier on your show.
Yeah, you make a good point,
That
though.
once you're
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you made you said it well as well, like that, you know, ultimate power does corrupt, but it does not absolutely everybody. There is always hope. Like there are people that get into positions of power and handle themselves with dignity and integrity. It just so happens there's seemingly a large majority of people that do get corrupted by power. So it is always important that, you know, we always say all politicians lie and all politicians are corrupt. I don't like to ever use absolutes like that when we use the word never, like when we're in a fight with our spouses or our kids. We can't use those terms, and we use them lightly, and they're used inappropriately. So, but sadly, a vast majority of people get enticed when they're in power to do things that, you know, make them lose any of their integrity.
Yeah, and I mean, two people that actually did do the most good or try to do the most good was and this is just my uh, opinion, so you can take it with a grain of salt. But JFK and Lincoln, who both ended up getting killed,
Mm.
and I think JFK was going to spill the whole beans on this corruption of the government that has gotten even worse now. He was going to put a stop to it,
I
and then go ahead.
I often wonder what the world would have looked like if that never happened with JFK. I really
Well,
try to imagine how great it could have been had we just nipped it in the bud at the time.
I do too.
What?
I think he knew it, and I go ahead.
No, sorry. Go ahead. Continue, Upstate.
Um, at any rate, I've also watched this guy called Michael Franzese on TikTok and other, I think, YouTube, and he's a mafia. His father was the head of the Colombo family, I think, in New York, and he swears up and down to this day. Of course, he's not in the families anymore. He got himself out. He's one of the only ones that ever did without being killed. And he swears up and down that the mob was contacted about JFK, and the government needed their help. And he said they had something to do with it, but he doesn't come right out and say what he had to do with it or what they had to do with it. He was too young. I was too young, but I remember it vividly.
What are your thoughts, and Mr. Global? So you don't remember this because you're too young, but Upstate Michael, what are your thoughts on JFK Jr.? No conspiracy, obviously he failed, but what would the world look like if JFK Jr. didn't die? What are your thoughts? And I know because you're right leaning, but what were your thoughts about him, and how do you think the world would look different?
Well, I think I liked him. I mean, and you're going to think I'm totally nuts, but you know what? I think that there could have been somebody that had something to do with that aircraft, because he was thinking about getting into politics. He was right on the verge, I think, of following in his father's footsteps. And who knows? I don't know.
Well, let me say this.
That,
Let me say this about this. I look at this is going to make me sound left leaning a little bit because I'm going to bring up, but you mentioned JFK first. So I always wonder about JFK that happened. I also then remember what would the world look like if 1992 went a different way with Ross Perot. Even though I was a Ross Perot fan, I did vote independent at that time. Then I also wonder about JFK Jr. if he didn't die. And then I also wonder about, well, mostly JFK Jr. because I'm a pilot as well, and I've flown from Martha's Vineyard, not to New Jersey, over to Connecticut, and I've done it from Martha's Vineyard and Block Island. So I know that those routes very well. And I had one close encounter, not close encounter, but scary encounter going over that same route, and because of the difference between the temperature of the water. So I could easily, and he was a much less experienced pilot than I was. And it's, well, we can all have thoughts on things could have happened, but that seemed to be just a tragic accident. But I always wonder, because if you think about JFK Jr., he was so seemingly, relatively speaking, even for moderate rights, he was really well liked. He had just this demeanor about him that wasn't cocky, even though he was a good looking guy, young, and he was successful, and he came from obviously a very political family. But with that said, he still seemed to be very well liked. And if he didn't pass, you have to think, I think he passed in 96 or 98. Anyway, he would have most likely been ready to run for politics the same time Obama was running for politics. And it's unlikely, I see it as Obama probably would have never came to power or been elected, because JFK would have been in his way. And he came with all that family heritage and legacy, sort of almost like American royalty. And then without Obama, you would never have had Trump, right? Because JFK would have gotten in the way of both this whole world of Obama and Trump, most likely. That's how I think about it anyway.
It's wild thinking about that.
One person, right?
It.
One person's death.
Yeah, one person.
How our entire
could
last
affect,
30 years.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I believe it. And his mom kept him grounded. Jackie kept him grounded pretty well. And I think that's why he was so well liked.
Yeah, I think all of our lives would be quite different if he didn't die in that plane crash. And you could almost wipe out the last 20 years of history, because Trump wouldn't have came to power because he couldn't have used, that JFK Jr. wasn't an American, right? And so that whole thing goes away. Obama probably doesn't come to power. Like, it's just stunning to think how one person, normally if one of us passes, a normal person, it doesn't really change the world at all. But sometimes it just changes history forever.
Yeah, it's incredible to even think about it.
Yeah, I reflect on that probably about once a year, and just stunning, like, and look at the world today, because I can almost assure you that whether you loved him or you didn't like him because he was left, that he, like you said, he was raised well, and he had moral integrity, had decency. Now, he could have gone off the deep end at some point and gotten, but anyway, it's just wild to think about it.
Yeah, it is. It is wild.
It's a shame.
JFK was he was incredible. The patience he had to keep us out of sending a nuke into Cuba. I mean, it went down to the 11th hour. I'm just amazed at how he did that. And he wasn't. Everybody talks about this Trump and this stripper or something he pays, stuff like that. But if you think of JFK, he was doing the same thing.
Oh, he's a total womanizer. Yeah, total womanizer.
Yeah,
but
total. I mean, Marilyn Monroe was coming in the back doors. Jackie was going out the front door, and that's been published.
Yeah,
not disputed.
But he wasn't. For some reason, the people didn't think of him as a creep. They just thought of okay, well, he's just JFK. He's just JFK. It's okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
And then Edward Kennedy, same way.
Right. Yeah. And I think Jackie said, "You're not going to be like your father."
Yeah, powerful people. They do that stuff.
Is he related to the John Kennedy from Kentucky?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Okay.
Yeah, Kentucky. I don't think what's it? Not Kennebunkport. That's Bush. But where the JFK is from on Rhode Island there, Cape Cod. What's the name?
Yeah.
What's the name of their compound?
Yeah.
I don't think you go from the compound on Rhode
Hamptons.
Island to the Kentucky compound.
Touche.
Yeah.
Touche.
No.
All right. Well, that's nice. Actually, go ahead.
That's all I had to say about that. And the Epstein thing. It's just that there's so much out there that they've learned they can never ever release that stuff.
Yeah, and they will never release any videos or any of that because once you release it, they lose all their leverage. We know who we're talking about, I think. And then everything,
Right.
it doesn't make any sense to ever release it. You just use it as a gun hanging over their heads indefinitely with just the threat of releasing it. But you can almost call their bluff because it would never be released. It would do that country so much harm. It would do that country much more harm than good.
Yep. It certainly would. And you know, they might release some names here or there. But they're not going to release all the details. I mean, it was flat out disgusting.
So so that makes me think. So let's play this out. I haven't understood the Maxwell pardon thing, but if the government releases the list the way certain people want it to be released without Trump on it, and if they give Maxwell the pardon, so now she's pardoned and under the agreement that she will not say anything different than what's on the official list. And then they pardon her.
Right.
And the only threat is, well, it's not an only threat. The threat is like, well, listen, you're going to be unalived if you end up doing anything different than what we tell you to do. Right. And not by our government. We're talking about somebody else.
Right.
Just like your father, right? We'll just say, hey, your father, you know what happened to your father. That's all you have to say.
Yeah.
She might be safer where she's at then.
Right. But if she gets pardoned and she doesn't have to say anything because there's an official list, but it's not the whole list. And then she's just basically forced into silence the rest of her life because she won't be around otherwise.
Yeah, she'll write a book and it'll be released on her last days.
Yeah, maybe, right? Dimitrov one says, what does it mean being on the list exactly mean? That's a great question, Dimitrov. I don't know. I've really never fully understood it because it's not like some ultra secretive list. It's just a blackmail list, like Anthony MCCI says. It's a blackmail list, but other than that, like there's so many people that are on it that are in power, so nothing would surprise anyone.
Is the ultimate plot twist that it comes out and that everybody forgives them but asks them to stand down or step down from their positions?
But why would they even be forced to step down? Like if they release a list, how they want the list to be portrayed. Like, I think
everybody on the list has so much power. Trump wants it to go away. All those people want it to go away, and it's gonna go away. But they may have to give up a little tidbits here and there.
But the thing, MAGA has been
Trump.
Sorry.
Yeah, Trump will pardon her. I think it's going to tick me right off. I can tell you right now.
But you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay if Diddy. You're going to be okay if Diddy gets pardoned, though, right?
No, I'm not. And some of these victims have said she was worse than he was, and that come out through the trials, and it's just disgusting. I think he's going to do it.
Yeah. Polaris and Alice, thanks for sticking around, Alice. We never found out fully about the JFK files, the UFO files, all these things that we said that they're going to be released. Nothing really happens, right? We're all just being suckers. Like we're all suckers at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
Unless we were ever to unite, otherwise we're all suckers. Oh, Polaris, yeah, you said essentially the same thing. Okay. Well, I'm going to run a
I sent,
couple.
I,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to head out of here, but I did send a couple people your way, and I can't remember who they were, but one of the girls, she was a leftist, but she was complaining about all the corruption, this and that, and so I gave her your name up here, and I sent her to you. I don't know if she ever checked you out or not, but I do that occasionally because I want this whole movement to grow.
I appreciate that.
Not you know, because it is the only way. It's the only way to change things.
Yep.
And the president doesn't have any power at all. They're just gonna, if the president, no matter what POTUS it is, no matter what his intentions are, they'll just kill him. They'll just kill him.
Well, they don't even
It's
have
Congress.
they don't have to do that, right? It's just so much influence, right? You don't have to. The president doesn't have the power to make legislation, right? So it's more important to actually buy off the elected officials, which are congressional
Exactly.
leaders, because they're the ones that actually have to make the laws.
Exactly.
Right. The president truly isn't that important when it comes to this sort of aspect. It's like, that's why I always say, if there was one great president that stepped up, it wouldn't matter. It's not about one person as a president. It would take 535, replacing 535 politicians from both parties. Like, that's the only way to make true change.
Agreed. That's a fact in my mind.
Yep. So, well, thank you. So there's only, we only need 974,000 people left. And then we got this thing handled.
That's okay. I keep checking your account, and your count's going up. Your followers are going up.
They work.
It might be slow, but you never know. Sometimes things go slow. Then all of a sudden it shoots up a little bit. So
that's right. That's the
I've
hope.
got hope.
Yeah, I try and hold a little bit of hope as well. So thanks. I always appreciate talking to you, Upstate Michael. Appreciate it.
Oh, okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, so did you see any cool comments come by, Mr. Global?
I think there's a couple of them. I think Polaris was chit-chatting a little bit, and I think it looks like Jesus is back.
Yeah. All right, so there's 22 people left. I just have a question for the 22 people left. I have said in the past, and I just want to know your opinions, if you can load it in the comments. So this is sort of winding down, but I have a serious question to ask. I've said in the past, I will never run for being a politician. I have built communities, and my role that I'm trying to do is build a community of people that want to eliminate corruption. And I've also said that I would never ask for any money. And I think, what was the third one? There was something else. But anyway, so I have a thought. Like, eventually there's always needs to be money involved. So if there's people listening here, I set up a TK Civics Venmo and PayPal account, and it's not for me. It's for not a penny. Maybe eventually, if this was a full-time job, I would have compensation. But in order for me to make this work, we have these lives, we have lots of good content, and I need help creating content, not creating content, doing the content, but behind the scenes, the video editing, the publishing, and those types of things take a lot of time. Someday I want to be able to hire someone part-time to do some video editing. I think it's the only way, and make sure that I can, you have to, if you're not publishing content constantly, you may as well be invisible. So I'm thinking at some point, even though I will certainly never be a politician, never ask you for your vote, because I have a different plan. If you read the plan up here at tinyurl.com/TK Civics plan, I put together a pretty comprehensive plan of what I want to do. And the first one is I need to become relevant enough. And that means be able to share content, grow a community, to say that if I was ever relevant enough, then we can go on to step 2, which is communicating with people directly using a technology solution that I already have built that I have to modify a little bit so that we don't have to rely on TikTok and on YouTube and on other platforms, because you never know when you're going to get sort of the boot. And then it would be about recruiting candidates, like political leaders, to be elected into office. And I know these are wild, big dreams, but they're not impossible. They are possible. But they're not complex. So my thought is eventually I'm going to probably ask people to contribute money just so that I can pay people to do video editing. So I can take the highlights of these shows and create other content, spend much more time making more content and building the community. So if anyone has any thoughts on that, I am almost embarrassed to ask for it because I sort of complain against other people on social media that I just think are grifting as content creators. Like I always Dean Withers and Parker on the left, and then of course the Charlie Kirks and the Ben Shapiros and everybody else on the right, always grifting. So I'm gonna eventually start promoting that. Mr. Global, maybe offline, you can give me your thoughts on that as well, because just one person trying to do everything, it's gonna be impossible. And so that's
AI.
I've tried.
AI.
You can't.
Is it difficult?
Yeah, because you know, when you're trying to make TikToks or YouTube videos, you really have to get the highlights right. And I would like to ultimately like to do a Dave Ramsey style show, but for civics instead of for finances. And if you watch how Dave Ramsey does this, he does a lot of these types of shows. He gets some really unique people that have problems or questions. We can do the same thing about politics, but then they have to cut those things down. And all the AI solutions, I'm very technical, but none of them are good. I mean, it still takes an enormous amount of time. Most of the time, I just manually edit because the AI edits are just so problematic. And we're not even talking about
Right.
complex edits. We're just talking about basically cutting things down. We're not talking about all kinds of fancy shit. So
Right.
it's not hard, but it is very time consuming. So at some point, I'm going to have to see if people want to contribute. I'll probably wait till I get bigger, but it's there. So that's one thing. And the second announcement would be is what do we want to talk about next? I have, as you know, I wanted to do a guest show. So I have a couple ideas. Guest show, Gen Z, Gen Y edition. Sort of this is like the Ramsey point of view is as the question or the prompt would be for people is how is politics impacting your life negatively, maybe positively as well, and what are your fears? So I think that might be a topic that people would come on as guests and say, what's actually happening in politics? Because I want to connect the dots because a lot of people think politics is abstract, right? Something in politics that happens doesn't really impact their lives, but we all know that there are things that happen, like right now with the government being shut down, that really impacting their lives. And maybe those are stories that people would come on here and tell. And then I could make those into short clips that continue to grow the movement behind eliminating corruption, right?
I think there's something to say about the like a traditional old school grassroots hit the streets type live, ask real people in real time, similar
Yes.
to like what CK does, or some of these other guys, Crowder, or whoever that hit the streets and ask people.
Why am I missing CK? Why can't I think of who CK is?
Charlie Kirk.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Jeez. Sorry. I'm just used to hearing Kirk, not CK. Yeah, exactly. There's something to be said on that organic level. Absolutely.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I was just that's sometimes where I see things maybe going.
Yeah. So, whether we do Epstein list things or, we can talk about issues
Calvin
like,
Klein.
yeah, there you go. Is taxation, wealth distribution? I don't know. If anyone has any thoughts, you can send me a DM. The people that are left, if you have a topic that you think we can talk about that a lot of people would be interested in, that somehow connects the dots, because really everything connects the dots back to the corruption by special interests. So I don't think the issue is really that important because everything can be connected back to that. And that's what I would kind of like to make a show about is that aspect of it.
Well, you've got my attention, so whatever you think is best, man.
Yeah.
You
So,
got it.
but
You're
feel
doing
free.
it.
Keep sending me DMs though, and anyone else, feel free to send me a DM and any thoughts because ultimately I have a motive. I'll be very upfront. I have a very clear motive. I always say people tell you who they are and they show you who they are. You just have to watch and listen. And my motive is to do whatever I can for my kids and future generations, your kids and all of us and our direct lives to see if we can do anything about politics and the state of politics between this red versus blue BS that we all deal with every day. And so that's my motive. I have the time, I have the energy, I have some of the background to do it. So I figure, well, I don't want to be 80 years old and saying I regret not doing anything, because none of us ever know if maybe one of us can do something. And since I have the time, the energy, and some aptitude for it, I may as well continue. I enjoy doing it to it. By the way, these lives and Mr. Global joining me and all the people we talk to, like, it's actually really enjoyable. We're meeting people from all over the country, random people, some of them a little bit crazy, and most of them actually pretty darn smart.
I often reflect on that after we get off. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little shy, and I was talking to people at first on these lives was kind of, heart racing, and it helps to have the practice, and I think it helps other people too, that maybe they muster up the energy or the courage to actually attempt to come on and talk about things that they believe in or their perspective. I think that's where it all kind of has to start. So,
Yeah. Polaris, I just sent you an invite. Maybe you want to jump in here because I just saw this today. I've been watching the Purple Revolution, I guess this Howl kid, a little bit, but it was really just today that I came across a creator that was talking about the Purple Revolution controversy. And I know you put something in your profile as well regarding it. So why don't we cover it for a few minutes?
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Hey, man. Welcome back.
Just doing my midnight cleaning session. I'm always grateful to see you two online, fighting the good fight, having good conversations.
Ditto. So you're a supporter of the Purple Revolution thingy, right?
I am, but there has been a tremendous amount of controversy, which to me is a bit bittersweet. Number one, I think it's this viral trend going around. So it's gotten people's attention, but it's gotten so much attention that now it's getting the backlash, right? There's like this infiltration that's happening and, infighting among some of the proponents of it. So I found myself feeling somewhat distanced from the brand Purple Revolution, and now I'm latching on to the ideas that I think have attracted a lot of people.
Yeah, what we talked about a few days ago about, potentially names for parties and so forth. That's why I like to stay away from all that, because once you start giving, I guess the Purple Revolution name has been around for a while and it's just been repurposed over time. But I think there's some risk before you actually unifying behind a leader that it ends up, falling apart too soon. And that's why I think that a name, while it helps a brand grow, I think it also comes with maybe, and I might be talking way out of turn because I don't know that much about it, but that's why I always a little bit concerned.
I'll kind of just give you a little bit of context,
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So I first heard about it, and I think number one thing with the name, right, with any brand, it has to evoke some sort of emotional response. And the reason I personally gravitated towards the Purple Revolution, number one, purple is made by mixing red and blue.
Right.
And before I even heard about that, I've been advocating for, independence, to get more involved in politics, for people who find themselves, leaving this era of identity politics and want to focus more on this up-down issue as opposed to left-right. So immediately I saw that and I was like, yeah, I can get behind that. And obviously, when it concerns revolution, nobody owns that movement, right? It's the onus is on all of us as citizens, right, to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, let's go for it. But then I discovered there's a person who is sort of credited with the term, and his username was Purple Revolution. And this is where things started to, sort of kind of unraveled. Because this gentleman, Purple Revolution 2025 is his username on TikTok. He had basically come out as a former, he's a Marine. I think his bio says he's a happily married Marine with 6 kids. But his story is that he voted for Trump in the last election and he regrets it. So everybody was holding him to account, saying, oh, you're just MAGA, changing your spots. And He made an apology video saying, "Oh, I realize the harm I've done by supporting this, and we need to come together." And he was endorsed by another popular content creator called the Friendly Honey Badger, I think is her username. And there was one other guy named Hunter Howell. So these were like the three main content creators, I'll call them.
Can you tell me offhand?
Do
you know offhand how many followers each one of them had, roughly?
Yeah. So Friendly Honey Badger has a substantial amount. I think she might be in the hundreds of thousands.
Okay.
Whereas Purple Revolution actually has a comparable number to you, TK.
Okay.
Right? So he wasn't,
small guy, small fry.
Doesn't have a massive following. Yep. And then Hunter Howell is somewhere in the middle. Right? But here's the thing. I don't think we should be determining leadership by social media following. Right? I mean, we're talking about censorship on these platforms. How superfluous are these numbers?
Sure.
Now, I take that with a grain of salt because obviously the more following you have, the more people gravitate towards those voices. I get it. Trust me, I do. But my point is, this Hunter Howell guy referred to himself as a founder of the revolution, right? And it's like, nobody nominated these people for that position. And half of their accounts had nothing to do with this cause, but for the last week or so. So that doesn't necessarily lend any sort of social validation in my mind, right? It's not like they built their following off of this concept.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start there. But again, I think that one of the biggest issues besides his history, which I guess he's trying to atone for in whatever way, shape, or form, is the fact that they would refuse to talk policy, right? And this is where Honey Badger started saying, well, a revolution is not a political party. They're two different ideas. And I disagree. Because if you have a revolution without a political foundation to fall back on, it leaves a power vacuum. Right? So you sort of got to have these basic principles lined out before people who are willing to commit, only so much, maybe work with the system we have as opposed to a total, all-out revolution and even war, right?
Yeah, that's a road to nowhere.
That really tells people exactly, and that's kind of what I think the establishment wants at this point, because that will give them authority for force, right?
Yes.
Like
cool.
how are we going to compete with, with jets? That looks amazing. I've never seen that.
I've never seen that. Who did that?
Jets?
Just sent a gift.
Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony. That was awesome.
Anthony, we appreciate you. Hell yeah. Like, how are we going to compete with jets and drones and tanks and robots, AI, right? I mean, come on, people. Wake the up, okay? We need to organize, right, and build infrastructure, right? We talk about escaping the system we're so dependent on. How about food, water, electricity, right? I mean, these are the things we take for granted. And these people were advocating for war in some sense. And that was another thing with the infighting, is the Marine wanted war, the other guy didn't, and he was like, I kicked you out of the Purple Revolution. Who gave you the authority to say who's in and who's out? You know what I mean? So that's what's kind of going on now. And again, I'm going to land my jet plane. I think to me, it shows hope that there are ideas out there that can gain enough attention to at least get people talking. And then there's the controversy where we're going to find ourselves in this difference of opinion. And that's the work, right? That's the ugly part that we sort of have to get through together. The compromise that so few are willing to make. And maybe we can't work with everybody, but the target audience will still, ring true as long as the message and the unity is there. So I think we need to start with the human rights and work from that.
Well, I would also just one thing that I think, because in my naive days, I would have thought like, a more, or not just an organic community, but not necessarily a leaderless or a community, but humanity, the human nature is to follow a messenger with a message. And like you said, like, if there's three people there and they don't have clear, someone just organically by natural the market determines, meaning the people would determine who's sort of the leader of this thing. They can proclaim themselves all they want, but they bring in a fourth guy. That fourth guy might just take off as being the leader. And if the egos are too immature or too much in the way, then they're going to have infighting, right, on any sort of organization. So at the end of the day, the market determines who they want to follow, and it's usually an individual. And that individual then needs to have a principles or values that movement represents. And that's sort of the reality of human nature, whether you're doing something hopeful or hateful. So if you're doing something on the fascist side or the communist side or the hopeful side in some sort of like democracy side of things, it has to be a leader first. So these are sort of the normal infighters. And like you said, when you have the name revolution in your name, that's just such, the purple part is cool. The revolution, it just sends all kinds of mixed signals to everybody that sees that word. And that's not probably viable because people are going to, some people are going to resort to thinking that it means violence.
Well, I think
Yeah. No.
it plays into the millennial perspective, though. The millennial, the Gen Z, that's where the youth is right now, I believe. I I've we've kind of heard it with different people that have popped in tonight. They're just the one gentleman he's like, I'm just so tired of talking about these things because nothing ever comes of it. Like it just it's such an uphill battle, so that's why maybe they're more inclined to move that direction, whether it's right or wrong.
But look, whether it's Reagan, who came from money and was an actor, he came from something and he had a voice that resonated with people. Then you had Clinton that came from nothing, literally came from nothing, not much. He was not he was generally a poor kid, and he had a voice that resonated with the people. And then you had the Bushes, which are just pretty much installed there. They didn't have voices; they just ended up coming to power. But then you had Obama as well, who relatively came from nothing because he was able to deliver a message, just like Lincoln before and JFK. Like it's true organic movements come from a leader with a voice and with a message. That doesn't mean that's the only way to get to top of leadership, but then you need other help.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I do think, it is human nature, right, to think of a movement and associate it with a leader. But maybe that's a part of the problem. How
Yeah,
easily manipulated is an individual as opposed to a collective, right? And I think that's part of the secret sauce here. What's failing now with this purple revolution idea that wasn't at first is the fact that people tried to own it. It's not
right.
ownable,
Yes.
right? And then when we associate it with people, now people are flawed. We're all human. I think it's great this guy has realized, hey, I fucked. I'm sorry, I don't mean to.
You got censored. You got censored automatically before, which was interesting. When you said the F word before,
but do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's too early.
So, like, if we could just, let's go ahead.
No, you
It's
keep
not
going.
about a person, it's about the human spirit. It's about the collective. It's the
Yes.
conglomeration of every individual's perspective that truly reflects what this is supposed to be.
Yes, exactly. And that's why, like, my biggest concern was it needs to be decentralized because that's safer,
Right.
right? If we could just agree on fundamentals and come to some sort of democratic, consensus, right? That's the infrastructure that TK is laying out. And what I love about your civics plan, everybody can check out tinyurl.com/TK civics plan.
Thanks,
The
Blair's.
communication is the first thing you mention. It's the first thing you talk about. And that's where it has to start. Right? And the decorum, right? The way decisions are made, how we diversify our ability to communicate, all of those things are essential if we were to, really get locked down.
Yeah. So my thinking was always that if I would never want to be in politics anyway, so even if the message would resonate, in order to combat that, the ego in all of us and our human nature is I would be much more interested, and so why I set the plan up that way to say, listen, I just want to help organize it and define the values and the principle. And if it ever got large enough, sure, names could come into play, but more importantly, then political leaders can come into play, where you can recruit them. And there's a disconnect from sort of like the founding fathers, right? How many of the founding fathers ever became president of the United States? You had Washington. How many were there? That's a good question.
Was it Jackson?
It's funny you bring up Washington because I watched I watched the Hamilton play for the first time earlier today. I just kind of had it on in the background.
I've still never
And
watched it. Yeah.
he sure didn't want to. The music is so good. Lin-Manuel Miranda is really like a true talent. But George Washington didn't want to be president either, TK. We need leaders like you who don't gravitate towards that ego authority, right? And ego is such a good term here because with ego comes inherent flaws and biases, right?
Motives.
I've tried to talk to so many different people to diversify my opinion. And, you know, I've talked to different people of color, indigenous tribes who host lives here. You know, as a white man, I think it's important for me to sort of go into these spaces, you know, and to feel what it's like to be a minority because we're not.
Right.
And these are the people who are feeling excluded by a predominantly white movement. Those leaders of this purple revolution idea are all white, right? I think they're cisgender, which means their sex and their gender is the same, right? So I'm a white male, I'm cisgender, I have a wife, a female wife. So like, and they don't feel represented by that. So like, this goes back to my original concept I talked about you. The very first conversation, I said no taxation without representation, right? Put your money where your mouth is, but I'm not going to give my money towards a cause that I don't feel has my best interest at heart. How do I feel, you know, like I can trust you, you know, when I don't see myself in you?
Right.
And that's where the humanity really begins, right? We need to kind of like just put our differences aside and really just find that humanity in each other again at all costs because we are losing our liberties.
Right.
When you don't base it on an individual too, the message is it's transcendent. It's not just, you know, about the individual. It's anybody can access it. It's all there. So when you make it about ego and pride or an individual, it's already corrupted.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Egos, like ego and religion are demise of like humanity, right? Just you want something.
I believe there's a reason why I gravitated towards your TikTok, the way you spoke about the things that you talked about, the demeanor, the decorum, the approach. And to be honest, today, some of the things you said I didn't agree with
Yeah.
earlier today. And I got off the live and I was like, you know what? TK kind of pissed me off. And I was like, but I don't know, there's a grander scheme here, and I think it's just a slow matriculation. And I think you just got to hang on, and it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And it truly
And
does
it's not
take
about you,
You know,
right?
right.
yeah,
And that
yeah.
goes
The
for all
idea
of us.
is,
It's not about you. Like, don't take it personally.
the idea is whether it was purple revolution, or what I'm trying to do, or what a bunch of other people are trying to do, and you guys all trying to do the same thing. At the end of the day, if there's like 1,000 people all relatively sort of preaching around the same values, at some point, something or somebody is going to suck the oxygen out of the room in a good way, not necessarily a bad way. And everyone else becomes a follower. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just means that if you're truly earnest with what you're trying to do, you really don't care who does it. Like, I only care about like this world that we're in. My kids, I feel for them. And it's like, dang, I want to leave the world a better place for them. So I don't care who it is. Like, I wish JFK Jr. came back to life and you know, and there was no Obama and there was no Trump and just I wouldn't have to worry about this stuff. So at the end of the day, it's, you know, getting the message out, hopefully hundreds or thousands of people start singing or dancing in the same direction. And then slowly that gravitates. And something organic comes out of that. And organically, I still believe you're going to have a leader at some point. And that leader is not going to be chosen. Would be sad if it was chosen by a group of internal people, because then you're no different than any other party. It should be chosen just organically by the masses.
I have my black
100%
book.
agree.
I feel like I've got a offline, not on live. I want to I want to see what you think about some of the things I've got written down, and what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and I truly believe that's kind of maybe where it also needs to go. Like oftentimes I don't know exactly where you do stand, TK. Like I know I see your perspective, I hear what you say, but I have read your article about wanting to create the group, but I'm more curious maybe about what inside you think are all of your top 10 things, right? Of what you would do if you were head honcho for a day.
I would
See,
recruit. I would
that's where I just
like
want to interrupt
Polaris
you really
says.
quickly.
Like Polaris says, I would find representation for those people and let them hash it out and compromise on shit. Like I don't even care what. I mean, I care. I would try and persuade to some degree, but ultimately, as long as people have representation, because we talked about it, I'm just another white guy, right? And that's not enough. Like,
Interesting. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you got to be
But
careful.
here's the thing.
Yeah,
We're also the majority,
that's right.
right?
That's
We're
what's
also the
important to
majority.
realize.
So we need us as well,
That's right.
right? And so, like, we can't alienate ourselves for the sake of inclusivity. I like balancing this concept of inclusivity with integrity.
That's right.
That not everybody is welcome because they don't agree to our, let's call it, terms of service, right? If you don't abide by this simple, ethics code, which we can all agree is reasonable and just, then like we just don't want you a part of this movement. That's fine. Like there's plenty of other movements, there's other parties you can affiliate with. But if you don't agree with basic human rights, GTFOH,
Right.
and I'll just say this, Mr. Global. I agree. People want something to latch onto because trust is hard to come by, and that's understandable considering the current nature of affairs in this nation. But I think 10 is way too much. We just need to get down at the root of what is the most important thing for you. Number one, because again, yep, in terms of memory, we can't possibly grasp even my 10 things, TK's 10 things, and Mr. Global's 10 things. Now we're thinking of 30 things. There might be some overlap, yes. But do you get what I'm saying? We need to
Yes.
keep it simple because that's going to be how we
Well,
keep momentum.
I oftentimes though reflect it, or I see like this kind of like Greek type or a Roman type setting where, you're in this really nice, you know, stone building, and you've got these individuals sitting around this little amphitheater looking area, and somebody walks up and says, "This is where I'm at," and then like, well, I agree. You get the collective's majority. Yes, this is good, and then you move on to the thing. Maybe somebody else walks down and says like, yeah, these are the things that I exactly agree with. The only thing that he didn't mention or she didn't mention is this. And then again, you do the same thing with the collective. Okay, let's add this into it. I guess maybe that's what I'm trying to the vision that I see.
But
Yep,
that would come later when you
that's a
actually
great idea.
when you have some political representatives or potential candidates that would run, then you come up with a platform that talks about those issues. But nothing can be more important than the only one thing that you want to do. I'm going to show my age right here. City Slickers. If you remember Curly and Billy Crystal, Curly in City Slickers was the old guy, and it was just like, life is about one thing, and he wouldn't tell him what it was. And at the end, it was like,
Yep.
you have to figure it out for yourself.
True.
I do that in my own life. I in any situation at any time, I love saying, "Well, you know what they say." And I just want to bring this to your attention, Mr. Global, because I myself have been doing a tremendous amount of deconstruction of my own ego and my inherent biases. You said
Right.
he because you're a guy. You said she because you don't want the women to be left out. But
I
from
don't.
the get go, you could have just said they, which also excluded a lot of people. Does that make sense?
Well,
There's a lot of
yeah.
people who go by that pronoun as well. And
that's
so
just
this
my
is like that line
that's
in
my
the sand.
habit
Hey,
though.
exactly. And I know you mean nothing by it. I'm just trying to share like my journey, what I've learned recently, just trying to tune into some spaces that I'm not usually to be honest, comfortable sitting in. And just by diversifying my perspective in that way, I feel like I've gotten insight into what, you know, some other people are going through.
But we also have
And
to be
that's the type
careful.
of unity I'm looking for.
We also have to be careful not to belittle people. Like I was on a live the other day with another group and a bunch of black creators, and I said black male and black, black man and black female. Do you guys know the difference there? Do you hear it? Black male, black female.
Black
I think
man and black female, you mean? You said man and female? Is that what you said?
Yes, black man and then black female.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
think
there's a
if
black
that's gonna
woman
be, yeah.
and a black male. It's different.
Right. I,
Yep, for
according to
sure.
them, I talked down to the female and I called her by her gender instead of a black woman.
Yes, you did.
But the thing
Yes, you
about that is,
did.
and they are right, but we have to be careful because this is like political correctness, and everybody would have to do so much self-reflection, and life is busy, and you have a large swath of America
It's
that said, stop with this over political correctness, which they call woke, of course.
That's so true.
Right. And it's just like, well, we're just trying to be, I'm not trying to be indecent. It's just like something that I've said. And we got to be careful, like, to not make that like, that'll piss people off.
The thing, I agree. And I would argue that, think of it this way. We're all holding a mirror up at each other, right? And it's a two-sided mirror. So you're looking at your own reflection, they're looking at their own reflection, but we're
Yes.
trying to talk to each other.
Yes.
We're
Well,
constantly projecting back.
if we are a reflection, my words are a reflection of my what I guess would my what I'm accessing what I would call my source. And if somebody's going to try to come into the room where they're going to be jumping onto these little things like he, she, or female, male, they're in my mind they're already off. They're off the rails.
They're off the topic, right? They're going, in their mind, they
If
may not.
somebody's Yeah, if you're concocting a message and you've already thought all those things through, I'm not going to listen to you as much because it feels like you're more there's more premeditation. You're being too careful. It has to be authentic. It has to be
Yes.
real. It can't be this
It's a
fake
great point.
Right. Because we're
thing.
all products of our environment. And
And
as three white males, I think, we're all white males. We're products of our environment, which is definitely different than the products of what someone who grew up in a minority is. There you go.
And maybe their life was worse or better or whatever, but I don't know. Like it's so debilitating sometimes if we're going to just get caught up on these little nuanced details. And I don't know.
No, we shouldn't, but
it's so important. And let me explain why,
Yeah.
right? It comes with rapport.
That's true.
Rapport comes through talking like this as opposed to texting in the chat. That's why I always try to acknowledge the chat down below too. And I see some people agreeing with everything we're talking about down below. So that's cool. So
Yeah.
appreciate Anthony being here. But then there's another level where it's face to face. Right now you can kind of see how I'm engaged because they say 80% of communication is nonverbal. Right. So I mean, and then 15% is the tone you use or the word choice as opposed to what you actually say or intend. So we got to realize that we've been so divided for so long that we're not conversing openly in a way that makes each other feel heard and safe. Not for everyone, at least. And the best way we can handle that is to be, just drop the ego. I'm not, saying anything about your word choice, Mr. Global. I'm just sharing my own personal, journey with this kind of
Sure.
stuff. And, and my point is that you have to be willing to learn and open to new ideas because I believe in the platinum rule. You guys know what that is?
I do not.
You've probably heard of the golden rule, right? where you treat somebody the way they want to be, or you treat somebody the way you want to be treated.
Yep.
But
Right.
I would argue it's better to treat somebody the way that they want to be treated, because we're all individuals with different wants, needs, and desires. And it's a little nuanced. I get it. Trust me, I do. But we're talking like, first, second, third person perspective here. We have to kind of like step aside of ourselves and think, what's the best way to communicate with this target audience now? And that's, again, it still goes back to my representation idea that people need to feel like whatever we come up with, whether it's the Purple Party, the TK plan, the blackout the system, the tons of movements going on right now. But what's the one idea that can bring us all together? And human rights just seem to be the thing. And sometimes that comes with more socialist undertones. People want to know the nuance of policy, which I agree shouldn't be the meat and potatoes of it right now. It should be more like, can you afford, a $500 unplanned expense tomorrow if an emergency happened, right? That kind of like just ground level. And of course, some people can, some people can't. But those are the types of things I think will unite us. And just to kind of share my conceptualization of this purple revolution, I think human rights has to be number one. That's what everybody keeps talking about, especially with, what's going on right now in this country. It feels like there's a lot of violation of our rights. Besides that, spending intentionally with your dollar, right? We can't keep feeding the beast that's trying to consume us, right? So all these major corporations have formed a stakeholder capitalism where, after Citizens United, basically corporations could lobby our politicians in by-elections, right? So we can't keep, feeding the corporations that are selling us out and taking our rights away for their profit. That's to me, that's like number two. And just those two things alone go so deep, right? Because now we're talking, how do you get groceries? How do how do we stay on TikTok and communicate? How do you, provide for your family? All these very serious things. And we've become so dependent on the system that's taking advantage of us that we're not used to being uncomfortable, knowing what it's like. It's nice to see all you guys, and imagine if we were just in person, how different this conversation might be.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Human rights. So I'm not certainly going to say you're wrong. Actually, the group that I spoke to the other day had very similar thoughts to you, Polaris. They were thinking about human rights is the issue or the fundamental values we have to talk about first, because there are so many human rights being violated. I agree. If that were to be what takes off, I'd be all for it. I just question, from the humanity side, or human character, or the human condition, it is enough for a certain group of people, but I just wonder if it would. So I hope it works. I'm just not quite sure if the message, again, because I would hope the organic message comes first, but I still think it's in conjunction with a great messenger. So a great messenger could make human rights work, potentially, how they frame it. And the right messenger could make what I always lean towards, which is more the Citizens United in eliminating all corruption by special interest billionaires and corporations. Now, I'm not saying I'm right. I don't know. This is the one that just strikes me as the one that I lean on. Is that the one that resonates? I have no idea. And it doesn't matter, because there might be human rights. It could be something as simple as what has worked in politics for a long time. It's the economy, stupid, right? That's has worked for so long. And it's sort of the most, I don't want to say superficial, but I don't know what the word is, right? But anyway, so it could be any of those things. And I don't think it really matters, other than who's able to convey the message to the most amount of people and start getting the most amount of support. And then the only thing I want to say as a counterpoint to one other thing is on your thoughts about rapport, building rapport, and the diamond rule, right? You call it the diamond rule? Platinum rule. I also agree with that. I just don't know if most people will agree with that, because then I think there's an opportunity to get into social and culture wars and continue to split people by races and by sexes, because it's just so hanging fruit, right? It's just like people are just going to Yeah.
This conversation is so good because it's so simple, but it's not. It's so simple, but it's not easy.
Right.
Not at all.
You
There's so much
It's like the
nuance to it.
pronouns one. I always go back to the pronoun example. Like, I didn't care. Like, my kids were, one of my daughter was into pronouns, and I'm like, two sexes. You know, I've grown up in two sexes. Like, this is all confusing to me. I was confused about it, but it didn't affect my life too much. But a majority of America, not a majority, a large segment of a majority says you're pushing so far liberal so fast, and people don't like change. So the whole MAGA side and right wing side is saying, no, stop forcing me to consider whether I should call that someone a him or a her or they, or and they've just voiced whether it's right or wrong is not important. It's the perception is important. It's not the reality that's really matters. It's the perception that really matters.
Well, if we're actually being run by an actual human and not a corporation or not a business, something
Yes.
with a soul, it inherently will work. It just does. I mean, it has to be real. And I know you said something earlier, Polaris, about you have to meet someone where they're at. I agree, but it's oftentimes I have found that it seems to be a trap in these lives that I go into. They want you to meet them where they're at, and you have to talk to them the way that they want to be talked about. But that's it just it's just a distraction from actually accomplishing the goal.
You're like, because you're like a good guy, and now you're having to feel apologetic about and defensive going into these conversations.
And it completely
But
derails
see,
your thought process.
that is the trap though. That's the trap, and it's really consider it more of a test. Can I take myself out of it and just
Right?
be a mirror for them?
Which is really
Right?
difficult.
Yeah, but you
It's
guys are
so
you
hard
guys
to
are
do.
thinking
We're all human.
we're all thinking critically thinkers right now because we're having this face-to-face conversation. We're thinking about critically thinking. Most people in their everyday lives in politics, they're busy. They have kids. You know, like these things. They're exhausted, and then they got to come into these social issues, and they're not having these deep conversations with their family members, and they're not seeing it in their rural communities and so forth. So they just get pissed, right? They just get pissed because they don't have time or the energy to critically think about someone else's feelings because God darn it, they barely can make their own ends meet sometimes, right? And so they're worried about themselves, and rightfully so.
They have every right to be mad.
Yeah.
They have
Oh,
every right. I'm
absolutely.
sorry for cutting you off.
No, you're right. They have every right to be mad.
You know, we're all mad.
Yeah.
And we should be.
We're all mad.
Cirque's
right?
Night.
It's okay to feel that.
There's
We
someone
have
that's
to move past it.
Cirque Night here on YouTube says big money interests fuel culture wars. And that's a great point as well. Like everything that we're talking about is that getting amplified by so many different influencers and media and so forth. Yeah, the money. That's why I always come back to the money, like, because I know if we can cure the money problem, then everything else gets fixed. Everything else.
So I had this philosophical thought I wanted to share, right? What's the most precious sound that everyone can hear? Think about that for a second.
Laugh.
Breath.
I love those answers. That's great. I was actually thinking your name, your own name. Oftentimes we're given a name, which is really just a sound. Sometimes it has deeper meaning, for sure. But we hear it for the first time perhaps in the womb, right? We hear it when we're born and we're still being cradled, you know. There's a tonality to it. There's a pronunciation. And what happens if somebody mispronounces or misspells your name? It kind of feels like you don't know me.
Yeah.
Right? And so what do you do in that case? There's two options. You either let it go. I don't want to put myself in that awkward position of correcting somebody, you know, or you correct them and say, actually, it's pronounced this way. And they may take it or not. They could forget your name entirely. And then you see them the next time, and then it's like, hey, you, nice to see you, Mr. Earth. Hey, what's up, TP? How you doing? You get what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
People call me Polaris. Which one is it?
Polaris.
I don't care. Right? Do you get?
Tomato,
But do you
tomato.
understand what I'm getting at with this?
You just explained what's
Right.
wrong with my two oldest kids because we didn't name them until about 6 days after they were born. So I think they're still pissed.
My man, I didn't name either of my daughters until they were after they were born. Actually, so
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. 6 days is a long time.
Yeah,
I bet you
they
had to
were
change some
calling us. They
paperwork.
were calling us every day, like we got to file paperwork. They need social security numbers. And we're like, we don't. We're still fighting about it.
Yep. We can't have sovereign citizens, TK.
That's
We
right.
need names and numbers immediately.
That in line with what you were just talking about, though, is it like even like Mr. Global? Like nobody knows my name. Well, some people do. Like that's probably part of it too, is having your actual name on here, which is terrifying at times because it with cancel culture and somebody that, pops in or whatever can completely dox you and get you punished. So that
Miss, Mr. Earth, let me just tell you, I've talked to some security experts on this platform. People can dox you without,
true.
your name as your
That's true.
username. I mean, people have hunted IP addresses live very quickly, and it's very scary. But again, I mean, we signed the terms of service, and there's backdoors and loopholes with everything. I'm
Yep.
not trying to fear monger. That's just the reality we live in, right? We
That's true.
sacrifice that privacy for the convenience.
Yeah. Cirque Night Night on YouTube.
But you make a good point.
Just so you know, Polaris, Cirque Night Night on YouTube is watching. It said the guy speaking, meaning you, he would be a great strategist for people on the other side of the aisle.
Not sure even what side of the aisle you mean, but I've thought a lot about actually getting myself a couple different colored hats and going out into the wild and really just infiltrating people, meeting them where they're at. And one day I might wear a red hat and come across some opposition or some people who find me friendly and we could have a good conversation without that inhibition. And then the next day I'll turn my hat around and change the color to blue and do the same thing. And maybe the third day I'll wear some tattered clothes and smear some dirt on my face and, present myself as less fortunate. But that's kind of how we walk around, whether we realize it or not. Everything we do, everything we say, the clothes we wear, the way we carry ourselves, it's relaying a message. And that's where the ego death has to happen first, because once you get past that, you can really see through to the other person.
Once you get
have a true conversation.
Right. Once you get beyond your ego, you can see you can have empathy.
Most days, all my
Now we're
clothes
not
are
talking
covered
about
with
me.
paint and caulk and grout and thin set. I look like a schmuck and dirty and
My shirt says "Take a hike."
You have one of those too? I have that same shirt. Well, it's not the same shirt, but I have that same phrase on one of my shirts.
That's so
Yeah.
we can relate in that way, right?
All right.
But I
Well,
appreciate you guys. I really do. You always make me think.
yeah, ditto. I appreciate you joining. I think we've exhausted this. We talked about the Epstein list probably like 2 hours ago. Was the last time we were talking about it. But again, it was always to connect the dots towards corruption, right, and special interests. I'm still trying to figure out, like, how do I have a consistent show live that I can then cut up into smaller segments so I can use that content in more places to get more exposure? Because lives are great. They're fun. They're really great to build a rapport with, like, you guys and everybody else, but they're small. They're generally small. Like, I've had lives up to 500 people, and I see lives obviously with 10,000 people, but those are still small numbers, right? Relative speaking, there needs to be more static content.
You kind of got to play the game, TK.
Yeah.
You got to play the game. Just to give you some constructive, advice here. And I don't know anything. I have much less followers than you. I am just getting started, but I can tell you what I've seen work for other people with a good following. Your regular commercial breaks, mentioning your TK Civics plan, if that's the call to action you want, right?
Yep.
If you want more followers, you got to remind people to do that. You got to play to the algorithm, right? So the people that are here have to be tapping the screen, pressing all the buttons, sharing it. Those are all zero cost, but announcing that regularly can help. Just those little things I think would make a big difference. And honestly, follow the trends. If this purple revolution thing is trending, I think that's a great topic for you to talk about, because we just had a good conversation that kind of went off the rails a little bit. But if that's what people are searching for and curious about, and it resonates with you, do it.
Yeah, that's what
If
I
next
thought
week
about
we're
when you
talking
first
about,
mentioned it earlier. I was like, maybe we should talk about it tomorrow, because you do have to leverage all these different factors to get to be heard, to start scaling at enough rate where you can start getting some momentum, right? Yeah. Listen, from my background, I've never done this myself personally, but I started a company back when I was in my late 20s. And we were one of the spearheads in YouTube content creation. And I had 20 editors working at YouTube. We had 500 million views when I sold that company back in 2014. So like I have a lot of experience on the social side, just not being the face, right? So it's like, back then, 2014, 500 million YouTube views was a big deal. Today, it's not that big of a deal anymore. But now it's like, okay,
it's still a big deal to me.
yeah, and I've always envied
That's great.
envied those editors that we had that were able to put their face on camera and find their voice, right? We're always told from a young age, find who we are and find our voice. And here I am as a Gen Xer saying, okay, this is actually really cool, because the things that I've thought in my head, I'm now releasing, and I'll be corrected at some point. But you're finding your voice, and you're building rapport, like you mentioned, and really finding the things that hopefully will resonate, that you really truly care about, and that other people will hopefully latch on to as well.
Well, just remember, it's really not about you, TK, right? You're just the face, you're the voice of reason, and you've got a lot of great ideas. But once you get that core group of people like me and Global who support you, I want to invite other people to your stream, right? I want to give you support. Every time I'm in here, I should be tapping. I can tap now while I'm talking, right?
I can tap
But
on
like, you
my
got
own
to
thing.
build
I don't
that
know if that
loyal
does any
following.
difference, but I got my own hearts going. Maybe I.
You should do it. Do it just for solidarity, right? So
Absolutely.
we're all in it together. But
Yeah, I appreciate
I'm
it. At
gonna
the end
get
of the
off
day,
here,
we're all
guys. It's already
stardust.
late for me.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Hey, that resonates with me a lot. I got a star as my little picture over there. That was a little bit of symbolism I was thinking about right there.
Right
So
on. Right on. Have a great
you
night.
hit it.
All right, last
Talk to you
15
guys
people.
later. Okay.
Thanks, Polaris.
Peace.
So Polaris did it for me. The last 16 people here, please remember to send some badges or likes or whatever it might be, and follows, and share these in the future. As Polaris says, we do have to, again, it's sort of like just being confident with your motive. Like our motive is to do good. And, our motive is to eliminate corruption from politics. So if you agree with that, the 15 people, maybe tomorrow it's 150 people, right? And maybe eventually it's 1,050 people, and then it's 10,050 people. So we'll see how it goes.
It'll be you against the world. Maybe tomorrow I'll just watch you and you be solo. Because I have a feeling sometimes I come in here and maybe people get intimidated when there's multiple people. I'm curious about whether that affects how many people watch. You against the wolves, and then if you need me to pop in, I can pop in.
I don't think people do. I think people like
No?
having. I saw that the other day. Because I'm still learning about how to do these TikTok lives, and I just joined another group that had 5 people in it already, and I was wondering if they were going to welcome me in, and it just ended up being, as long as you don't have any douches in there,
Yeah.
it's a nice conversation, and I think it seems more inviting. But you could be right, but I think you're wrong.
Okay. Well, I love being wrong.
Yeah, I enjoy having you here. You're welcome. And if you ever get, I know these are long, and if you just disappear, I mean, you don't have to say bye. I get it. We are all busy, and you're 1 hour ahead of me, and you got work in the morning and shit like that.
Well, being self-employed, I have the blessing of being able to pick my days. So tomorrow is the day off for me. So
Yeah, but you didn't tell me this morning when you were getting up, and you're like, man, I was on too late last night. You must have said that.
it hurt. I was hurting
Yeah,
today. I
yeah.
was hurting.
I felt bad about that, because I realized when we got off, I was like, oh, dang. And I know he probably works in the morning. So,
Well, again, I still pick my schedule. I had a small kitchen project that I was working on, and I was a little late, but nobody was mad at me. So I made
okay,
it work.
good.
And truly I enjoy this, being up here and conversating, and I truly do believe in what I believe is the goal here. So
Thanks. And it really actually means a lot, whether it's 14 people or just you. Like, we got to start somewhere. So, you know, I truly believe it deep down. Oh, I mean, I beyond believe it, but doesn't mean I don't get uh, demoralized at times. Like, is it like how do you move forward? Even though no matter how deep the conviction is, you still wonder like, how long is this going to take? And I'm okay if it takes years. Totally okay with it. But like some days, it's, the old saying, this is a saying that I can't stand when people say, I think it's sort of a dilemma of American society. Uh, and it's actually is it in Declaration of Independence or Constitution, the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
I think it's almost a poison when people say, I just want to be happy. And it's a big time on the female side of things because happiness is a fleeting emotion. I could be happy
Yep.
one moment and crying the next moment. I'm not searching to be happy all the time. I'm searching to feel fulfilled and to feel like, to feel fulfilled. Like I did something for my kids and my family and other people. Like the World War II generation, a lot of them outside of the PTSD issues, they are the greatest generation because they went through the rest of their lives feeling like I did the world a huge favor from my actions.
Sure.
And they were the most proud generation, right? So I think it's like a disease to think of being happy. And it's even in the Constitution, right? The pursuit of happiness and liberty. Liberty, yes, but it should be fulfillment. I try and teach my kids and my daughter, like, you don't buy into this poison because it's especially problematic, even more on the female side of our society, that I just want to find a guy and be happy. It's like, no. If a guy doesn't make you happy, you have to make yourself feel fulfilled between your ears. That's right.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly hear that. I mostly ask for clarity. I mostly ask for clarity when you know, I there are bad days. You got to take the good with the bad, and smile with the sad.
Yeah.
I just want to
How
have.
many days have you started the day sort of miserable, but then you put in a hard day of work and you felt like you accomplished something, and at the end of the day, you just felt good.
All the time. I mean, when I'm slow with work and I'm not doing anything, I feel absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
And then there's days when I'm actually busy and I've got a job and somebody's like, "Oh my gosh, I really love what you did. This looks great." And I come home, even though I worked 8, 10 hours and I'm tired, I feel great.
Yeah. You feel accomplished,
I
right?
did something today.
Yeah. And that's what more of us as a society have to feel like that's the pursuit. It's the pursuit of accomplishment or the pursuit of fulfillment and not some random emotion. Because sometimes crying is the most powerful emotion. I've gone decades sometimes without crying. And, I had a family member pass and it's just like, oh my gosh, that was such a relief to get that out. And just, you know,
I I've noticed my days when I don't. I've noticed when I'm not, I can feel it. It feels like I need to, but nothing triggers it. But then there's like a song that pops on the radio that, triggers
yes,
that
yes.
emotion. Or it could be a smell. It can be an old place that I used to go to, an old house that I used to live at. And then I think about all the memories that I had there. Or, when I was a kid and to see how far I've come from when I was a small child and how it all has actually worked out. And when you're young, you're scared and fearful, and is this all going to actually play out the way that it needs to? And then you start getting into where I'm at now, and it's like, well, look, you actually did this.
And you'd
and
never become the
and
man that you are eventually as you progress through your life without those challenges and that those are all character moments, right? You without going through the trials and tribulations, you don't end up
and
becoming
in the
an
moment it sucks. In the
right.
moment it absolutely sucks, because I mean, your tunnel vision, you're not thinking about the long haul, the long picture, the grand scheme of things. But then when you kind of reflect back, you're like, hang on a second here. Now I see what's going on. Now I get it.
And by the way, anybody that's remaining that's watching, you're always welcome to join the invite, even if we're just doing some random banter and you think that something we're talking about is interesting that you can add to. Just jump in at any time. I'd say about 90% of the people, 80 to 90% of the people that join us are really civil, decent people with pure agendas, and then there's a few whack jobs here and there.
Even the whack jobs,
I know,
I
right?
do, I really try to get into their mind. I want to know where they're at. And I'm like, where did they go? Where are you? I'm trying to find you. And sometimes I can't. I'm
They're in
like,
Haiti,
I don't
man. They're
know.
in Haiti.
Yeah. It, it's scary sometimes. But the thing that they do have is they have the courage, you know? Even if they're way out there, they have a lot of courage, which is, you know, commendable for
Yep.
sure.
Yep. Yeah, appreciate for people who they are, even though they have really different views than you. All right. Well, have a great night. Thanks everybody for watching, and thanks, Mr. Global, for joining in again. Have a good day off tomorrow.
I appreciate it.
If you have any thoughts, if anybody has any thoughts on good topics to talk about, please DM me with those thoughts and topics. I'd love to see everybody here again tomorrow, or Saturday or Sunday, because these are really enjoyable to do, to sit around and just talk to people and meet new people and hear different perspectives, while at the same time, maybe it leads somewhere. Maybe, just maybe, it leads somewhere.
It will.
Yeah. And
I have faith.
I got to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, because I haven't pushed that at all. Because once that happens, then you can actually get, YouTube doesn't push out your live streams unless you have at least 1,000 followers.
Right.
And it's,
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, TK. You have a good night, and
Yep.
I'll catch up with you later.
Cheers. Good night.
See ya.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Leave you with the parting words from the opening scene of The Newsroom. If this gets old, I apologize, but please, most of you are probably new. Please listen for the last couple minutes to The Newsroom, because it defines what I think Americans need to realize. And being a huge advocate of civics and the Constitution, realize that we could be better than what we are, and we need to be. And I think this encapsulates that as good as anything I've ever heard before.
But he gets to hit you with it anytime he wants. It doesn't cost money. It costs votes. It costs airtime and column inches. You know why people don't like liberals? Because they lose. If liberals are so fucking smart, how come they lose so goddamn always? Hey. And with a straight face, you're going to tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom? Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, Australia, Belgium has freedom. So 207 sovereign states in the world, like 180 of them have freedom. All right. And yeah, you, sorority girl, just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day, there's some things you should know. And one of them is, there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies. Now, none of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you nonetheless are, without a doubt, a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yosemite? Sure used to be. We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chest. We built great big things, made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured diseases, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest economy. We reached for the stars, acted like men. We aspired to intelligence. We didn't belittle it. It didn't make us feel inferior. We didn't identify ourselves by who we voted for in the last election, and we didn't scare so easy. We were able to be all these things and do all these things because we were informed by great men, men who were revered, First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. America is not the greatest country in the world anymore. Enough?
But we should be. Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you tomorrow. Thanks for all the likes and everything else. Please follow. See ya.